A historic rally. Donald Trump attracted over 100,000 people into his Wildwood rally, and it rivals that they say of Barack Obama in St. Louis. Now, some estimates say as low as 80,000, but as high as 100,000. So let's just go with the 100,000 people. And this is in New Jersey, where some are speculating it's possible Trump could actually win the deep blue state, which hasn't been done in something like 40 years. I'm not so convinced. It is New Jersey, but Trump was able to muster up a massive showing. So this is big news. We'll talk about that. Then things get really interesting. CNN's Fareed Zakaria said this criminal trial against Trump would not be brought against anyone if their name was not Donald Trump. And even Bill Maher has now surfaced an old interview with Stormy Daniels where she contradicts herself, and even Bill Maher is calling her a liar. So this will be a lot of fun. And then, of course, my friends, the GameStop stock is skyrocketing. Everyone's saying the meme stocks are back. People are starting to buy heavily, these retail investors. And some say it's because the internet user named Roaring Kitty has returned. Well, we already have a super chatter saying, actually, this is because there were a bunch of calls made a while ago, and this is actually predictable. We'll talk about that. There's a bunch of other news. The Ashley Biden diary is real. This actually came out a couple weeks ago, but now it's getting more traction. And then, of course, Rumble is suing Google for $1 billion because of their unfair marketing practices pertaining to marketing. So we'll talk about all of that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. It's the best coffee. Everyone loves Appalachian Nights. We do have other flavors like Rise with Roberto Jr. We sponsor ourselves. If you like the show and you like coffee, you can buy Cast Brew coffee and you can drink it. Or you can buy it and bring it to your office and put it in the break room, because every time someone tries Appalachian Nights, they're like, this is the best coffee I've ever had. And so that's the plan, man. You know, you bring it to your work, you put it in the coffee machine, then everyone's like, what is this coffee? And then they must have it. Castbrew.com if you want to support the show. Also head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. If you want to hang out for the members only call-in show, which happens Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m., where you as members can submit questions. The community can vote on which question they want to see asked in the show. We usually do about 4 of them, sometimes 5, but usually 4. And that's the hour after the live show. So if you want to hang out for that, it's good fun. Hope to see you guys involved. And again, that's timcast.com. But also shout out to Shane Cashman. Tales from the Inverted World Live went live yesterday at 6 p.m. It will be Sundays at 6 p.m. And I'm already a huge fan. I was the first guest on the show talking about ghosts, and you guys are going to love this one, and I know you're going to get addicted to it because already everyone's begging to call in. Tales from the Inverted World Live is our new show hosted by Shane Cashman and Alex Ayala. And basically, you call in and tell your ghost stories. That's really what it's all about. There's some stories that pop up here and there, but then Shane's going to line up. Shane and Alex will line up maybe 5 to 6 callers who will call in to share their paranormal experiences. And then here's the best part. The plan is, with the membership at the on the SCNR app, is to actually create rooms to investigate some of these paranormal claims. And, you know, it's a wishful thinking. Maybe we can really uncover something, and the community there on the show who joins the network might actually solve some mysteries. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Riley Moore.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Good to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
So I am currently the state treasurer of West Virginia and running for the 2nd Congressional District in West Virginia. And I will say the coffee is excellent.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, so going to be in Congress, and the only member of Congress who can kickflip.
I believe that is correct, and I will challenge any member of Congress if I am there to a game of skate.
I'm pretty sure you'd win.
Yeah, I hope so.
I wonder if there's any other, I was mentioning this before the show. Our generation had the big skateboard boom, so it's no surprise that as we're getting older, you're going to start to see the hobby and the sport, of skateboarding entering Congress. I mean, people in Congress play basketball, they play football. Yeah,
no, I mean, I think you're going to see a lot more people that skate. And I mean, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I'd love to start like a skateboarder caucus, something like that. Try to advocate.
Be the only one.
I'd be the only one. I'd be the only one in it, but at least you can kind of like try to publicly advocate for those types of spaces and things, which I think are great for kids.
Yeah, maybe in about 10 years there'll be a scooter caucus.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that's the time frame. So thanks for joining us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot hanging out.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim, thanks for having me on. I'm a field reporter here at Scanner News. What's up, Hannah Claire?
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR or Scanner News. You guys can follow all of our work at Timcast News on Instagram and Twitter. Serge is here.
Hello, I'm here. What's up, guys? Hope you do the show.
Here we go. From the New York Post. Trump blasts Biden as total moron before crowd of 100,000 at New Jersey rally. Whole world is laughing at him. I had to choose the news source that not only referenced the 100,000 number, but also insulted Joe Biden, because we are very biased here at Timcast. We like Trump. We don't like Biden. Donald Trump recited all his greatest hits at a massive Saturday evening rally in Wildwood, New Jersey, but managed to avoid violating his court-imposed gag order by focusing on President Biden, whom he called a total moron, and blamed for his web of legal troubles. Trump, wearing his typical blue shirt, blue suit, blood red tie, and Make America Great Again cap, railed about inflation, offshore windmills, electric cars, the press, and Chris Christie. But unsurprisingly, it was Biden who drew the most intense vitriol. Take a look at some of these photos. Absolutely insane. This is potentially one of the biggest rallies ever in U.S. history. It is believed to be the biggest for a Republican, and we're not sure. It may rival Obama's St. Louis rally of 100,000. So, I mean, this is massive. What I will say is we're getting all of these signs and signals that Donald Trump is on track to win bigly. The question is, I'd imagine that there's going to be some sort of shadow campaign. And, I'm not so sure that we should just sit here and rest on our laurels just yet.
I think that's the problem with a lot of Republican voters, right? They're easy to say, like, Joe Biden's are so bad and inflation's awful. Of course Trump is going to win, but the reality is that you have to go to the polls, right? And the other part is that, if you had a Trump presidency, if you're really looking to see the reawakening of conservative values or America First values in this country, you would need to also support, those beliefs and policies down ticket. So you have to be able to vote for Senate, Congress, everyone in your local level. It's so easy during a presidential election year to just say, like, oh, yes, these two guys are running, when actually, you're the best person to talk about this.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it.
Now, look, this is an inflection point in this country. It really makes a huge difference what the outcome of this election. There's no doubt about it. If you think that things are bad now, think if you had another 4 years of Joe Biden and how bad that would be. Imagine just in the time that we're living in right now, 3 years of Joe Biden tanked the economy, inflation's off the charts. You have to go out and vote if we're going to get this country back. It's the only way to save this country is for Joe Biden to be defeated in this upcoming election. It's a huge, huge election. I know everyone's always like, this is the biggest election of our lifetime. I am serious. You have seen this thing on hyperdrive. The left's agenda over this last 3 years, trillions of dollars of debt, inflation, all of it piled up. We're potentially looking at 3 wars now. Go out and vote. Please, people, be politically engaged, because they're going to do everything they can on their side to try to make this thing difficult for us.
I think that's why you see the hyperfixation on abortion, on these issues that are not getting the same attention that the mainstream everyday kitchen table issues have, right? Like how much your grocery bill is really makes a difference to the voter. Being able to say, well, I was the president who, my vice president toured an abortion facility. I feel like the Democrats are already campaigning uphill because the economy is so bad and that's such a number one issue. But on top of that, the things that they are alternatively trying to direct to aren't as motivating in terms of getting voter turnout as, some other issues.
I thought it was interesting. One of his openers was North Carolina Governor Doug Burgum. Doug Burgum.
North Dakota.
North Dakota, rather. So I don't know if I'm reading into that too much. It would be an interesting VP pick because I know there's been whispers about that.
Yeah, no, there has been whispers about that, but to me, I think the person who makes the most sense to be the VP nomination for Donald Trump is J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance out of Ohio. If we want to continue this America First movement in this country, Senator J.D. Vance is the person for that job. J.D. Vance makes the most sense to me. I don't think you need a milquetoast VP nominee in this process. You don't need just a filler. We need a succession plan.
If he picked J.D. Vance, I think that would be a huge signal to what his policy goals would be in this second administration. However, I don't know if he'd feel comfortable having somebody like a J.D. Vance, because I think if J.D. was VP, then he'd want to run for president next time. And I don't think Trump wants somebody under him who could potentially like vie for his spot after. What do you think about that?
J.D. Vance was in New York today at the trial.
Yes.
I mean, he was sort of advocating the way that a second in command would. And this is one of the interesting things about the Trump election, right? Which is like tomorrow Vivek's going to be there too. So there are all these people sort of saying like, look, if you need someone, here's what I would look like as a potential second in command.
It's the tryouts, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, look, JD is somebody who comes from that working class background. Everybody's kind of familiar with him and his book, Hillbilly Elegy, and all of that. This party now is shifting to this party of the working class. Axios just put out an article, I think it was yesterday, talking about Latino working class voters are now shifting to the Republican column, as well as black working class voters. And we're seeing that obviously among white working class voters and specifically labor unions. That's also happening as well. They're voting for Trump. Trump in the last one got 40% of the labor union vote. They're moving in our direction. JD captures that. And I think he plays well in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. He's from Southern Ohio. Obviously, we're going to win Ohio anyway. But point being, look, Trump has one term here that he's going to do. We have to have a succession plan because there is going to be an Empire Strikes Back moment where the establishment and the neocons are going to try to take it back.
They're gonna try to bring in it'll be a pseudo MAGA candidate, someone you think they'll try and fit into the MAGA mold, but slowly drift into uniparty mold, or at the very least get elected and then go full uniparty.
Was Nikki Haley the only person he officially ruled out?
Yeah.
Was that? Okay,
Yeah.
so only it's for sure not going to be Nikki Haley.
And I just want to mention too, we're getting like cell phone interference and everyone's phones are in airplane mode. And I know that people are hearing the crackling and I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Everybody's in airplane mode and it just keeps happening. So that's never happened before. But you know, I think the issue is we're in a Faraday cage. We're in a.
What does that mean?
So a Faraday cage is like a gigantic metal box that absorbs electromagnetic frequencies.
Okay.
And so the building we're in is not a legitimate Faraday cage, but it basically acts like one because your phone doesn't work inside the building. And but it does a little bit. So I think what may be happening is that in the room, the phones, when the signal gets weak, it blasts. It gets.
It searches harder for the
yeah,
signal.
and the phone gets
Yeah.
hot. So that's why we're hearing that crackling. But I don't know. Everyone's in airplane mode. We'll see what happens.
I'm in airplane mode.
Yeah.
So now we all get to stay completely focused on the
Yes.
Anyway, there's going to be a fake MAGA candidate, and the scary thing is you won't see it coming. It's the only move, and I don't know what the defense is against it, right? There's a big backbench for Republicans, and you're going to get a candidate who says all the right things and seems to be like Trump in a lot of ways, but better. Yes, Bannon said that, you ain't seen nothing yet. Donald Trump's the moderate. Donald Trump is actually still warm to many establishment players trying to play ball. And imagine what it would be like if Steve Bannon was president. I mean, he's way more America First, more MAGA than Trump is. Trump actually seems to be trying to still stay within a color within the lines or whatever. I think we may end up with somebody who says all the right things, gets in, and then, I don't know, nukes a foreign country or something.
Yeah.
I think it's always possible. For me, the best way to deter against a potential, usurper of the MAGA legacy would be if there was a clear understanding of what the future momentum of the MAGA movement would be, right? Because ultimately, without one defined leader, when Trump can no longer be in office, it's going to inevitably fracture into different interest groups. One of the best things about it right now is there's a cohesive rallying point. And even with all the trials and everything that he's in, ultimately people look to Trump as like the way forward through the mess that we are in. And I think people felt that way in 2016, but now given the state that Joe Biden has left the country, it's even more so, right? I mean, I just don't know that it's clear that there is an heir apparent to this. On the other hand, the best thing that the voters could do to say, these are the issues, like top 3 issues we want moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, with Senator Vance, J.D. Vance, this is a guy who, and whatever you think about this, you have to at least give him credit here. During his election, during his campaign, came out against the U.S. supporting the war in Ukraine during his election, which was not popular, And he had a lot of guts coming out like that and took the risk because he thought it was the right thing. And that is where it turns out a lot of the electorate is actually. So, I mean, I think that's what you want.
And it is like Trump. I mean, there are a lot of issues that Trump moved forward on in a way that other Republicans had been scared to. I mean, famously saying build the wall. So many Republicans had looked at immigration as this like campaign ending issue. And that's not the case anymore. And you know, there have been people before him talking about immigration, but Trump really brought it to the mainstream in a way that sort of similarly, you can see that kind of boldness in a candidate like Vance when they take stances that maybe, especially corporate media, are like, do not say that.
I don't want to sound super cynical politically, but it's so interesting when you zoom out for a second and you see who the possibilities are for VP, Marco Rubio, JD Vance. These guys were all at one point never Trumpers, and they did a full 180 now and are managing to be on his kind of short list for VP. I think it's, from a zoomed out 10-year perspective, it's easy how quickly politics can change.
Did you say who you would want to see as VP?
I think he should try to unify the party. So I think he should pick the only person he said that he wouldn't.
Who?
Nikki Haley. I think Nikki Haley would be a great pick, and it would also unify the Republican Party.
No, he's a Haley
fan. It would be a great pick. Also, I don't think Nikki Haley's very threatening to Trump. Like, I don't think Trump wants a VP who he views as somebody who could be his possible successor. He doesn't want to have to be
concerned. Could you pick a VP that you called Bird Brain, though? I mean, that's rough.
I think he said horrible things about Marco Rubio, and he's still on the short list.
He can't pick Nikki Haley because then I owe Will Chamberlain $4,000.
It's a small amount to pay to have somebody so hawkish and.
We did it.
Serge, you look so happy.
Will and I did a charity bet. Will Chamberlain, because he was saying, look, he's going to pick Haley. Like, that makes a lot of sense. It does, like you said, unify the party. It gets a lot of the establishment players, Bush donors, to play ball with Trump. And I said, no way it's going to happen. So he challenged me. We did a charity bet. But he recently tweeted at me. I just got to reach out. He said, Trump truthed. Nikki Haley is not under consideration.
Yes.
And Will said, looks like you've won this one. Name the charity. And so we'll figure it out. But I don't think it's fair to say the charity bet is over, because just because Trump said she's not a consideration doesn't mean it's not the case. And we're all hoping it's not the case. We're hoping he's serious when he says no to Nikki Haley.
Yeah, and look, JD Vance, and obviously had comments at one point, and Marco Rubio being never Trumpers at that time. But look, I'm a Christian. I believe in redemption. I believe in salvation, and people coming to the light, and they found the light, and that's good. I'm not into cancel culture and saying, well, they said this, that. Not saying you're not, but we get that sometimes with Republicans where it's like, oh, well, they said this I don't care what they said a long time ago. They're where they need to be now, and I think JD's been a great advocate for the America First movement.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the trial news. We have this story, and I love this one so much. CNN pundit preps Biden voters for a Trump win. That's one way to put it, post-millennial. Quote, I doubt the New York indictment would have brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. This is Fareed Zakaria of CNN, but don't take it from me. Listen to him break it down for you.
And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. A majority of Americans are skeptical that Trump will be able to get a fair trial, according to a CNN poll.
I love that. He says, and his fans see it as politically motivated, which is true in my opinion. That was on CNN. Yo, it's bad. And you even had an MSNBC, a legal analyst, defending Trump's team because Stormy Daniels is so bad. They said that Stormy Daniels basically turned this into a sexual assault case, which has prejudiced the jury. And it's shocking that it's being allowed. I'm like, when CNN and MSNBC are defending Trump, we don't need Nikki Haley for unity, right? Alive, we got unity now because they've gone so sour with these. They screwed these trials up so miserably. Everyone's seemingly being forced to defend Donald Trump. But I just want to say, I love that we're in the moment where everybody probably, not everybody, a lot of people were Trump supporters from day one. But for a lot of those holdouts, me included, we had those stop making me defend Trump moments where Trump would come out and say something like, you know, we're gonna secure the border and we're gonna make sure we deal with this properly because these cartels, these people are animals. I'm telling you, the people coming there are animals. And then the left comes out and says Trump calls immigrants and calls refugees animals. And then I'm like, no, look, he's talking about the cartels. Like, stop making me defend him, okay? Now we're at the point where CNN and MSNBC are in the, please, no, like, stop making me defend Trump phase, which means give him 6 months and they'll be Trump supporters.
With Stormy Daniels is interesting because initially they're like, she's so brave, she's taking the stand. And initially, like the first, I would say 12 hours of coverage, they're like, had all these great points. And then, you know, the further we got away from her testimony, the more and more people were like, actually, this could be a major issue on appeal that she prejudiced the jury. Actually, she really couldn't rein herself in. Actually, she said way more than the prosecutors wanted her to say. And I think you're seeing this every time they put up a new witness in this case. They're like, this is the star witness. Well, actually, it wasn't that good. In the case of Stormy Daniels, actually, this may have hurt everything. And I think Michael Cohen's testimony might go similarly. They're saying like, oh, he's really got Trump there. And then later it's going to be like, but actually, he was always not that credible of a witness. He is a convicted felon. You know, he's convicted of tax evasion. Like, it's not a great cast of characters for the prosecution there.
This is a serious issue, I believe, for the Joe Biden campaign because they're actually big fans of Fareed Zakaria, which kind of represents like the median Democrat. And for him to like plainly and nakedly see that this is political and publicly say so, I think is a serious issue for Democrats.
Did you hear about Jen Psaki's lie in her book where she said Biden did not check his watch at the was it a funeral or was it memorial?
When it was the bodies being transferred back to the U.S. from Afghanistan. It was the 13 Marines.
And she said in her book he didn't check his watch. It was fake news. And
cited an article that said he checked his watch while the bodies were being unloaded.
My view here is MSNBC, these Democrat media aligned people, they want to lie to you.
Yes.
Fareed Zakaria admitting this is not because he's being honest. It's not because he finally realized. It's because the lie is so egregious. The stupidest person in the country wouldn't even believe it. Yeah. Not necessarily. A lot of stupid people do believe it. But they're at a point where they're like, guys, look, we can slip a lot past these dumb viewers, but this one's not going to fly. We have no choice. No one's going to believe it. Like, our audience size will shrink to the 10 stupidest people in the country if we try and claim this is a real case.
Well, and their ratings have already been in the tank anyway, right? I mean,
and that's why.
Yeah, and that's why. I mean, you know, they're propagating all these lies out here. It's such a strange world to be in where I'm like, oh my God, I agree with Fareed Zakaria. But
look, unity is possible.
Yeah.
I think loosely the Democrat plan here was to, even if they were to lose the case, was to try to impugn Donald Trump's character and make it, oh, Donald Trump cheated on his wife, allegedly, because I believe he's still denying the relationship. But I guess that's the idea. They want to make him seem like an adulterer. But they've been doing this for so long, and I'm surprised that they haven't understood that this isn't an effective message. They're just rehashing the Stormy Daniels stuff. We've already done all the Stormy Daniels stuff. So
when Cohen was on trial today, they were talking about, you know, that it would have been devastating if the story came out because Trump would have lost among women. But he went on to win that election and also is, you know, as far as I can tell, it's not really the major thing that turns women off.
Yeah, he would have lost women. I'm sure lots of women feel very strongly about Stormy Daniels.
She's the representation of all of us. That's who I want the moral hierarchy to be.
I think you look at the case, though, and the fact that it's taken this long, as Trump stated, I think it was today, it's 4 weeks he's not been able to campaign. When you look at the case and there's no real criminal charge here, none of it makes sense. I mean, it's wild. There's no crime.
Yeah.
I think it's politically advantageous for Trump because it's making people like Fareed Zakaria come out and say this.
I agree, but I don't think that was their plan. I think their plan was to hobble Trump in an election year by making it so he can't campaign. And now Trump is like, then I'll campaign in front of the courthouse every single day, and it's working.
Oh, no, he's totally flipped it. And it's like, this is a witch hunt. And any objective observer of this can look at it and say, this is a witch hunt. I mean, they're dragging them all over the country to all these different trials that just happen to be during an election year.
Even though there have been, like with this one, it's been turned down 2 or 3 times before. They could have brought it way earlier. They didn't. They brought it now.
It's all fake. All this is fake. It's just convenient timing for them, just like Tim's saying, to try to hobble him in his election. But Trump, look, he is a genius when it comes to the media and just flipped it right on his head, and he's just holding a press conference right out in front of
Every day.
every day.
Before and after.
And having huge rallies like down the street in Wildwood. You know, not down the street, but like
Oh, he's got to do the Madison Square Garden one.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if, I think they're not doing court. No, they are doing court on Fridays. And then they get out like 4 or whatever, right?
they don't do it on Wednesdays.
Right, which is a weird thing, very strange. But imagine if Trump said, just abruptly at the last minute, Madison Square Garden rally on like the last week of the trial, and the last day, right after he gets out of court, all right, like the jury deliberating, whatever's going on, or whatever happens, filling up Madison Square Garden would be just absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah, one of the ones that hit for me too is that he was either coming out of court or into it, and he stopped and talked to all the labor union guys there in New York, and they're like, "Yeah, we're with Trump."
And he
Brought pizzas to the firemen?
Yeah, bro,
Come
pizza's
on.
fireman.
What's a little bit shocking about the most recent Trump rallies, too, is that it doesn't have as much vitriol from the left as they used to. There aren't these protests outside all of his rallies
That's a
like
good
there
point.
was coming up on 2016. I've been to like a half dozen of them. I'm constantly looking for protesters, but there are none. Maybe if he came to MSG, there would be some. But it's interesting, too, because the Democrats are dealing constantly with protesters at their left flank. The Joe Biden campaign is constantly screening people coming to his campaign rallies because they don't want viral videos of him being yelled at by Palestine protesters. So it's just interesting seeing how that plays out.
Yeah, I think there's completely different energies coming from the two campaigns, and Trump's is sort of gaining momentum in a positive way, whether you like him or not. And Joe Biden's is constantly hitting these roadblocks because the sort of most intense people in their demographic, what I would say are young progressive voters who feel like they are called to activism over everything else. You know, instead of rallying for Biden, they are prepared to rally against him. I don't know if you saw all the videos of people walking out of college protests over the weekend because they were, waving flags or doing whatever.
Yeah.
Like in another universe, these people would have been like, we can't have Trump. It has to be Biden over everything. And instead, they're like divided on this major issue, meaning they are separated from their party.
They're protesting at their graduations for Palestine, not that, oh, Trump's a threat to democracy and, oh, Trump's a fascist and the world's going to end because of it.
And I'll tell you this, I bet there will not be very big protests at the RNC in Milwaukee.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
And there will be massive protests at the DNC in Chicago.
Did you hear they're trying to go virtual with
Exactly.
that? Yeah,
They're so concerned about
What?
potential riots that the DNC wants to go like half digital, half remote with their convention.
Well, and who benefits off of being digital here? Joe Biden, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the things
Right,
that
because he can stay in the basement.
He can stay in the
Yeah, yeah.
basement. They can light him properly. They can give him breaks off to the side. It's not like you'll get, an on the ground reporter like Alad noticing that he's actually being like helped off the stage. You can't
Well-
get him stumbling upstairs if he's just seated
You can't
at a
get
desk.
people constantly yelling at him about Palestine, because that's what it would be.
What they do is, well, in all honesty and seriousness, yes, I was going to make a joke, but you're absolutely right. He's going to get heckled. They're going to boo.
Constantly, too.
Tons of people at the convention, progressive activists who are at the Democratic Party are going to be screaming about Palestine. I was going to make a joke that by having him in the basement, they can pull his skin back and hook him up to an IV so that he can be functioning during the duration of it. But you're correct.
This is also what happened during COVID, so they have the framework to have a virtual
yeah, that's right,
convention.
that's right.
They already have the. It's happened before, so.
Yeah.
But when-
And again,
in-
he
in,
benefited from it.
I mean, the world in which Biden functions right now, he himself as a person, at the end of the day, a presidential election, like any election, my election, anybody's, people are hiring you to do a job. He couldn't get hired right now to be a greeter at Walmart. He wouldn't be able to complete the sentences. Hello, how are you today? I mean, it's just
He
He's
wouldn't
well
be a
past-
cart collector,
no, couldn't
No.
do that.
which I don't know. Is that harder than greeter?
I think it's harder. You got to walk
get-
around.
the-
The greeters at Walmart sit. They're just like hanging out.
Yeah, because he'd be sitting there and then he'd be like, huh, come on. They'd be like, okay, Grandpa, it's time to go to bed.
I mean, he is well past what's retirement age is 67 in this country.
well past. He's well past life expectancy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. Like, in a different culture, we would be like, you are too old and you should retire. Like, this is just something we do. You turn over power to younger people. But instead, it's like, again, I like Donald Trump a lot, but he is also in his late 70s. We have two older people. Now, granted, Donald Trump's much healthier. It's obvious night and day. But this will just, again, siphon young voters away from Biden, who say he's just an old white man who they don't want there.
I just want to point out we've got Biden, who is inviolable. I mean, he's on the verge of death. I mean that with all due respect, right? Okay, it's time to bring Grandpa Joe, wheel him into the sun and put a blanket on his lap and let him just relax all day. Then you've got RFK Jr. We just found out a worm ate his brain, part of it, and then died. And shout out, I can't remember who sent the super chat, but they were like,
Died of starvation.
yeah, they said a worm was, they say that a worm died in RFK Jr.'s head, poor thing starved to, a brain-eating worm died in his head, poor thing starved to death. And I'm sorry, RFK's head, what did I say? Did I say Biden? RFK. And then you have Trump, who is this cartoonish real estate, reality TV business mogul. And I say cartoonish not in like a unserious way, in a loud, boisterous, and like, what's the right word? I mean, he's certainly spry, but he is a character, to say the least. We have like, this is the wildest presidential election of my lifetime, at the very least. They've all been boring up until now. This one's weird.
Yeah, and look, yes, Trump is older, but, I mean, his current state, physically and mentally, is vastly different than Joe Biden.
Let's jump to this story from the New York Post. Bill Maher dredges up 2018 Stormy Daniels interview that totally undermines her Trump trial testimony. What's wild about this is that you've basically got Bill Maher, who hates Donald Trump, has Trump derangement syndrome, defending Donald Trump. Look, okay, you got Fareed Zakaria, you got MSNBC's legal analysts, and now you've got Bill Maher, and they're all being forced to defend Trump. What a world we live in. I think this may be the clip. Let's play this one. And
she hired. I mean, it's not really relevant to the case, but they left an opening. And now that one's going to be delayed. The stolen documents one, that's never going to happen because that's a Trumpy judge.
Yeah, this is an old clip. This is not the clip. That is him saying she's a bad witness. They've screwed this one up. But let me pull up the clip on Twitter. I think Bill Maher on Twitter had it. Here we go. Jack Posobiec's got the clip, and I thought it was in the article, but we have it right here.
With Trump. Listen,
here we go.
And first I asked her why she had sex with Trump. Listen to that, and then listen to what she says after that, and then we're going to talk about the trial, because it's quite at variance of what she said to me in 2018. Why did you Donald Trump?
I have no idea.
Okay, but you say it's not a Me Too case.
It is not a Me Too case. I mean, I wasn't assaulted. I wasn't attacked or raped or coerced or blackmailed. They tried to shove me in the Me Too box to further their own agenda. And first of all, I didn't want any part of that because it's not the truth, and I'm not a victim in that regard.
That's not what she's saying now. She's talking about he was bigger and blocking the way. It's all the Me Too buzzwords. She said there was a power imbalance of power, for sure. My hands were shaking so hard. She said she blacked out. Blacked out? She's a porn star. I don't think sex...
That doesn't mean she's been subjected to the likes of Donald Trump. I might black out too.
Do you really think she blacked out? I mean, a porn star is used to having sex with people she does not know. That's the job. It's kind of like Stormy Bob Stormy.
It's amazing that even when Bill Maher is basically saying she's lying, they're still trying to she was subjected to Donald Trump. I'll break it down for you. In the beginning, Bill Maher asks her, why did you sleep with Donald Trump? She goes, I don't know. I can tell you why. Because at the time, he was a billionaire, reality TV celebrity, real estate tycoon at every party with his name on all of these buildings around the world. He was the American dream. Everybody knew and loved Donald Trump. And she, of course, enjoyed herself. Now that Donald Trump is much older, and they're trying to make him out to be this disgusting guy, but also they don't like him politically. Now she's going, I don't know. It's all of these people, they have amnesia. They forgot that Trump was on The Apprentice and everyone loved that show. They forgot that he was in Home Alone 2 as a cameo because people loved Donald Trump. And now she can't recall why she wanted to be with a billionaire celebrity.
It's a mystery to everyone. No one can figure that one out.
A lot of the time when there isn't any evidence of rape or sexual assault, I find that, I don't know if to call them activists or not, they go back to this buzzword power imbalance. And it's not well defined, but I mean, if Donald Trump has sex with anybody, isn't it a power imbalance? So like, just you see that buzzword a lot, and when there isn't any smoking gun, that's what they'll go back to, and that it's Donald Trump of having sex with Stormy Daniels and the power imbalance existing. Is that the crime? So
well, and she's changed her mind like 4 or 5 times. Right?
Yeah.
She admitted in court that she signed that letter stating like there was no affair. I'm not being coerced.
That's
it's not
where
true.
I'm at. I don't believe that it even happened.
I don't either.
wait, to clarify, the crime is that it was because it was a FEC violation
saying-
for
yes.
not for and then the
What was the
kickback
crime,
that happened.
What was the crime?
They're
No,
saying he
It was like an
falsified
in-kind
tax-
donation.
No,
No. Okay.
No.
they're
There's
saying
no crime.
Well, I think what they're alleging the crime is
No,
is that he was getting Donald Trump was paying Michael Cohen.
Yeah, so
and
they're
Michael
saying
Cohen
he
paid
falsified his payments to Michael Cohen. He said they were for legal purposes. They're saying a hush money. That I think would be a misdemeanor in New York, except now they're saying it's a felony because he did it to cover up another crime, which they're saying is election interference. But they don't have to actually charge him with that, and they don't have to prove it really. Like in court, they're trying to.
But there literally is no underlying crime. They're just saying election interference. There's no crime, and the falsifying business records is a misdemeanor that the statute of limitations expired a long time ago. They tried to bring this against Trump. The FEC and the DOJ said there is no crime and you have no jurisdiction. So they waited 8 years. Trump apparently made the payment when he was already president, by the way. So how was he interfere? I believe that's what it was, right? It was 2017.
Yeah, so he started. The idea is that he started authorizing them beforehand, but then they were made in like installments, and they went through when he was in office in the White House. Because they brought in like his secretary to be like, "Did you hand him these letters?" And she was like, "Sure, because it's the mail that was for him."
You don't think it happened?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
You guys don't think that
I do
they
not.
stopped?
No,
Also because
I don't.
this is kind of weird.
That was the most kosher way.
Do you know why I don't think it happened? Go back to the Brett Kavanaugh thing. You don't think they find people to try to set them up and
No, but
destroy?
the payment. Then what was the payment for?
Well, because
to stop her from selling the story.
Yeah, to try to
To
stop.
stop them from selling a fake story, though, because if they published a fake story,
But
he
don't
could
a
sue.
ton of people
they've
settle
done-
with girls who come forward with allegations? Like it's easier to settle than it is to try and bring all the dirty details out.
Wait. Is it is confirmed there is an NDA?
An NDA?
There is literally an NDA that Trump had Stormy Daniels sign that says not to tell anybody they hooked up.
I think it was like they signed the right to the story to be able to publish the story, and then they killed the story.
Yeah, so the idea is like she went to the media
Yeah.
and was like, I have this story. And so they worked with the National Enquirer to be like, we'll buy the rights to the story from you so that then they can hold it and they never print it. But then the National Enquirer publisher was like,
I see.
I already did this for someone else, a different Playboy model, who, by the way, from what I'm remembering of the numbers, got more money than Stormy Daniels. Like, it doesn't really make sense other than the fact that they were like, when you're in an election year, theoretically, any of these women can come forward, say anything, and it's actually faster. Not that this is great, but like it's faster to just pay them to go away. But that doesn't actually admit that there was anything there. It's that they have the ability to damage your reputation, and you have the money to make it.
It's like
quiet.
LBJ, said back in the day, and this is, I'm paraphrasing the quote, but he'd want to ask his opponent, "When did you stop beating your wife?"
Yeah.
How do you answer that one? Right?
Yeah.
It's
Well, you just
Never started?
Never started.
Yeah.
It's like, oh really?
And the Stormy
I should be a
Daniels rumors
politician.
had been around for a really long time. From what I know, like People Magazine was like speculating about it in the early 2000s. It's not
He
like
was
it
a
was.
playboy. I think he stooped a lot of models in porn.
I can't speak
stars.
to everything, but I just think that Stormy Daniels has been completely inconsistent. The fact that like she was like, yes, this happened. No, it didn't happen. Actually, I'm going to go on TV and say that's not my signature on this letter denying it happened. Then I'm going to go to court, which was last week, and say, actually, that is my signature. I was just made to sign it. Like, she's not consistent. She's not a good witness. I can't speak to all of Trump's personal activities. I can just say this is not someone the public looks at and is like, I really believe her.
I don't know that it actually matters at this point. I think the bigger picture here is just that Bill Maher, Fareed Zakaria, MSNBC's legal analysts, they're all saying, like, this is bunk. On MSNBC, they were saying that this is just prejudice to the jury. Trump's going to win an appeal in 2 seconds. If you go to court, here's the example that I gave, earlier in the day. If guy A is accused of kicking guy B's dog, you've got like simple assault or something. I don't know if they would charge for that, but he attacked the guy. You can't in the courtroom mention that the dude accused of kicking the dog had previously served jail time for mail fraud, because that prejudices the jury against him, even though it has no relevance to whether he kicked the dog or not. It's not evidence. It just makes him look bad. So they want to say he must be a criminal, so they usually say you can't bring that up. That's nothing to do with this trial. The fact that In a court hearing about falsified documents, Stormy is effectively accusing Trump of rape, turning it into a Me Too case, has absolutely prejudiced the jury. But there's some reports saying that Trump was fuming. He was muttering to himself the whole time, like basically saying she was a liar and this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what Trump's team wants. And this is what MSNBC is pointing out. They're saying, fantastic. You by refusing to sustain the objections to this and do anything about it, Trump's going to file an appeal, and they're going to say the jury was prejudiced with this testimony. The appeals court's going to say, oh, absolutely. So it gets thrown out, which says to me, the goal of this trial is to hobble Trump and take up his time and just try to run his name through the mud as much as they can. It's not working. Seems to be backfiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same strategy again, too. It's like we heard this Stormy Daniels story. Give us something new. And
again,
Teflon Don is...
Now all these
Teflon
theoretical
Don.
details are out. I don't think it affected anything, right? If the whole thing was to keep her from being able to talk about the whatever alleged encounter they had, and now it's on trial, but actually everyone is sympathetic to Trump because she's not trustworthy. What did this actually achieve for anyone other than maybe giving Stormy Daniels 15 more minutes of fame?
And to be fair here, it's a little tough to, in the public eye, Me Too Donald Trump with a porn star. It's a tough sell.
Yet here we are, and they're trying to change their story. Well, let's jump to this next story. We have this from the Gateway Pundit. Ashley Biden officially confirms her diary, where she talks about showers with her dad, Joe Biden, is real, an emotional letter to judge. And I wanted to pull up the Gateway Pundit because they actually reported the news, but I'm going to throw it to our good friends over at Snopes, who updated their article titled, "Did Ashley Biden accuse Joe Biden of inappropriate behavior in a leaked diary?" Quote, "I will forever have to deal with the fact that my personal journal can be viewed online," Ashley Biden wrote to a district court judge.
Wow.
True. On April 29, 2024, Snopes changed the rating of this fact check from unproven to true based on testimony provided by Ashley Biden. In an April 8th letter to a New York judge requesting jail time for one of the two people convicted of stealing her diary, Biden wrote, which I just read, "I will forever have to deal with the fact that my personal journal can be viewed online." Previous versions of this fact check noted strong evidence the diary existed, but argued that no source had authenticated the contents of the pages published online, writing that the authenticity of photographs reported to be from a diary is a separate question from the factual existence of a diary. My response to that, Snopes, is there's no proof Donald Trump had any classified documents. There's a photo of it. They're claiming they recovered the evidence, but they could have made it up. So until there's proof, it's a ridiculous notion. Look, Trump had the documents. The question is, as president, was he allowed to have classified documents or not? Not whether they were real. We know that this woman took the diary. We know that she sold it. We know Veritas had it. We know Veritas passed it off to National File. We know National File had the diary and then reported on it and posted images. Why would anyone assume it was fake? The corporate press was screaming to the high heavens, no. While it may be true that some woman did have it, give it to Project Veritas, who gave it to National File, and National File did report on it, the images they published may be fake. Therefore, unproven. It's a ridiculous concept. But now it's Snopes confirmed Joe Biden seems to have taken inappropriate showers with his young daughter.
And doesn't this just remind you of the laptop?
Exactly.
I mean, this is just like the laptop. It's not mine. It's fake. This is not real. Russian disinformation, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, then he shows up in court, Hunter, and is like, yeah, that's my laptop. I need it back.
Yep.
And didn't he sue the people who had it or something?
Yes, that's
he
what I'm
acts like
saying.
he is the victim.
Yes,
And that's
yeah.
I mean, I can understand we're having your personal diary, we're talking about what seemed like very traumatic times in your life. On the internet, that's not fun. On the other hand, again, why is the Biden family always the victim, yet also somehow everyone is responsible for everything that happens to them?
I see what you guys are saying. She should have brought the diary to a computer repair store first, and then the computer repair store could have been like, it was left here by someone.
Well, and I'll say this, for her is, I feel terrible for her. It's awful. This is her father. This is insane that this man is president of the United States, and you did have former staff members on the Hill come out and say I was assaulted by Joe Biden when he was in the United States Senate, and the mainstream media just killed it, just destroyed it. Gone. She's been disappeared, I'm sure, into wherever. And that just went away. It just went away. And it's obviously, it's corroborated his, in my view, long history of illegal sexual behavior.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a guy on camera who's sniffing little kids one too many times. And then you hear this in the diary where she says that she thinks she may have been sexualized at a young age, or she was, and that she took showers with her dad that may be inappropriate. And isn't it true? Is it true that Hunter called him Pedo Pete? Was that confirmed?
Wasn't that his name for him on his phone or something? I'll double check.
Yeah, I think it was his name in his phone.
I don't know if that was confirmed, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it was confirmed or not either.
But I don't know. I think we have a preponderance of evidence on old creepy Uncle Joe.
Yes.
Well, and otherwise, the other parts of her diary that I remember seeing are like she's talking about like her marriage being chaotic, having like substance issues. Hunter has also famously struggled with addictions. Like,
yes.
Aside from everything else, these children or these children of Joe Biden clearly have a lot of emotional and psychological baggage they're dealing with. A lot of Americans do struggle with these things. It's just interesting because you look at this family and they're supposed to be the representation of the first family, and we say Joe Biden's such a family man and he likes all his granddaughters or else, and it's like all of the family around you is in chaos. Like something seems wrong here, you know?
Yeah. There's a question, though, and it's public right to know. So first and foremost, it's like, look, if you find someone's private diary, it doesn't matter if they're a public figure or not. You shouldn't try and sell it to make money. But there's a question of, this guy Joe Biden wants to be president. And if there's documented evidence from a victimized family member or I should say potentially victimized family member, then is there a public need to know that this is the case? And so I suppose here it's actually pretty clear cut. It's clear cut. The woman who took the diary sold it, right? They made money off it. If she handed it off to a journalist for nothing, and then there'd be an interesting question of someone found a diary that makes allegations against the man trying to be president, accusing him of potentially assaulting children. Maybe that's something a journalist should figure out. But then if you try to sell it to him, it sounds like you just stole property and you're selling it for money.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're mentioning, it's horrible for her, but I'm curious, what do you think about I mean, maybe it's not fair at all to say, but is there some kind of like public need to know when it's someone trying to become president about what his behaviors may be?
Yeah, I mean, like when you're talking about somebody who's potentially preyed on their own kids or done something inappropriate like this, I mean, that's certainly a discussion. And then that coupled with these accusations of what he had done as a United States senator as well, that, remember, those just disappeared. Those just went away. I think that is a conversation to have. We're certainly having it in court right now about Donald Trump. I mean, I think it's a fair conversation to have. And, look, you just mentioned right now, you got his kids having substance abuse issues and obviously a lot of emotional distress and baggage and things of that nature. I can't imagine being in a position where it's like, yeah, I can go run for president. Mm-hmm. When your whole life, the things you're supposed to care about the most. I mean, I got kids. And just being like, oh, their lives are falling apart, I'm going to run for president.
Yeah. I think he abused his kid. That's my opinion. When you look at how messed up Hunter is, when you look at the things that Ashley's writing and the things she's described in her life, I'm like, this sounds like children who are traumatized. And then you look at the behaviors of Joe Biden, and you can make assumptions. You can sort of make assumptions what you think there. So I wonder what happened to his kids based on what they allegedly call him, and now they have serious drug and substance abuse problems. He seems like a pretty bad guy.
Yeah.
It's also hard because, again, it's obviously we're going to contrast him to Trump, right? And people will go after Trump saying like, oh, he said stuff about Ivanka, or like he's been married 3 times or whatever it is. And, I just don't think that Donald Trump's children treat him the same way Joe Biden's children treat him.
Not even close.
Right? And even the children that were from different marriages, from all I can see from the outside, appear to have some pretty positive relationships. It doesn't seem like this internal chaos where one of them is like leaving his marriage to then be with his brother's widow. Like, it's very chaotic in the Biden household. And the Trump, in comparison, is like, again, no families are perfect. Everyone has their own stuff. But like, if we had to pick a first family right now, I don't think we'd pick the Bidens.
I think the issue at hand here is the double standard, because if it was one of Trump's kids who lost his diary or lost his laptop and it was leaked to one of these news organizations, I don't think anybody would be calling it like they would all believe it. Everybody would believe it. They wouldn't be questioning it, calling it Russian disinformation. That would be a great scoop for the New York Times or something. So they'd love that. The double standard is what I think the issue is.
And it's essentially everything they said about Donald Trump is actually just true about Joe Biden, which is the fascinating thing here. All these accusations about Trump and he's a terrible guy, terrible father, that's all true on the other side. His kids are terrible. Don Jr.'s great. These are good people. I mean, they're doing good things. I mean, then you got the other side. And it's, look, there's been widely reported. You got, Hunter marrying his brother's, or getting together with his brother's widow. And it's just like.
Remember the WikiLeaks thing with Don Jr.? Where it was like they misreported the date of the email that he got to make it seem like he had advanced knowledge of WikiLeaks releases.
Right, yeah.
It's like, here's a dude who gets a random email from someone, and he's like, wow. And then they're like, this proves it. They go nuts. And then meanwhile, you got Hunter Biden, the laptop. No, that's not real at all. And all these intelligence agencies have denied it. Yeah, it's I'm sorry. You look at the things on that Hunter Biden laptop, and you're like, yikes. This poor guy. His drug abuse, the tormented mind. He's like a man, it's like the Burisma thing just makes me feel like Hunter is just some used and abused tool for his dad to basically operate as his proxy in these business affairs. And then it's funny because you look at the Trump family, and like you were saying, they're like well-adjusted, normal people. I like to bring this up all the time. Like if you saw Don Jr. just like out walking around, you wouldn't know the difference between him and any other regular dude just walking around. There's nothing, and I mean this respectfully. He's a very regular, normal dude.
Yeah, I've met him. Yeah, and met him. Hey, what's going on? Just normal.
You wouldn't realize that he's the son of a billionaire, former president, or anything like that. You just think you'd met some guy.
No, he actually goes and hunts periodically down in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, cool. And he'll just like hanging out,
Yeah.
And not to beat a dead horse with Joe Biden's family issues, but I think it goes underreported that Hunter Biden has another child that Joe Biden doesn't acknowledge. And they came to some negotiation where the child doesn't have the Biden last name as he was supposed to. So
her mom's the exotic dancer that he met in D.C.
So I'm not 100% up to date with all the explicit details, but it's underreported. And
I followed that story.
But if Trump had that,
wait, how old is the kid?
She's like 4 or 5.
This is like 15 years away from being a Game of Thrones storyline.
Well, there was this thing because they were going back and forth, and there was like a lot of press coverage. I was really interested in this because I think the family is one of the most important structures that we have as a society and a community. And so, again, all families have issues. Not all families are perfect. It's not that we are trying to hold them to an unreasonable standard, but there is so much chaos with the Biden children that, including this like daughter who he was paying child support for, and then was like, well, I don't want to pay as much, but I don't want her to have my last name. She's being raised in like Arkansas by her mom. The Biden family would acknowledge it. There was a point where they were like, and we love all of our, I think it's like 6 grandchildren.
Oh, yeah, they're missing one there.
Well, part of it, what I found interesting is that he is married to a South African film producer, I think. And they got married pretty quickly within like 2 weeks of meeting each other. And they have another young child. So when you are looking up like Joe Biden's youngest grandchild, that's the one that's going to come up. It's a little boy. And again, when he was finally through negotiating this like arbitration over this poor kid's child support, the Biden, Jill and Joe Biden suddenly were like, well, we love all of them, including Navy, this little girl. Like, it's so opportunistic. And I just think this is not the message we want to send to children in America, that like when your parents acknowledge you, or if they do, is totally at their will. You should be valued by your parents.
Yeah. I mean, look, Biden's thirst and hunger for power has probably destroyed his family, unfortunately. I mean, if anybody was going through a situation like this, they'd say, you know what, time out. I need to go focus on my family. But that's not what he's done, and he's run for president multiple times.
Yep. He's a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Let's jump to this story. We got huge news from Reclaim the Net. Rumble files billion-dollar lawsuit against Google for lost ad revenue and exploiting ad tech dominance. Rumble escalates its battle against Google with a groundbreaking $1 billion lawsuit challenging the tech giant's alleged monopolistic maneuvers in the ad tech landscape. Before I even read the article, I want to show you the opening paragraph here from their lawsuit. This is incredible. They write, for its complaint against defendants and each of them. So this is Rumble Canada Inc. versus Google LLC. They say, check this out. The complaint asserts claims and seeks damages and injunctive relief that are entirely separate and distinct from that being sought in the currently pending case against Google, Rumble Inc. via Google. The case relates primarily to Google's self-preferencing its wholly owned vertical YouTube in Google search results over links to the searched for videos on rumble.com and other video platforms, and various agreements that Google entered into with third parties that allow Google to dictate that the YouTube mobile app must be pre-installed on various smart devices, that the YouTube app must be given prominent placement on the smart device, and that the YouTube app cannot be deleted by the end user of the device. I hear that right away, and I'm like, oh man, judgment for Rumble on this one.
Yeah.
You can't even delete the app off the phone?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So here's a story from Rumble. They say the company contends that Google's actions have deprived it of significant ad earnings. Rumble, once a Google ad client before developing its proprietary ad tech in 2022, asserts that Google's monopolistic behavior has manipulated the ad tech market to its own advantage. According to the complaint, Google exploits significant conflicts of interest that stem from its multiple roles in this electronically traded marketplace. It further accuses Google of skimming an undue share of advertising revenue, which should rightfully benefit publishers like Rumble and its content creators. This is not Rumble's first legal foray against the tech giant. In 2021, it accused Google of illegally prioritizing YouTube content in its search engine and Android operating system, which I think is absolutely true. If you Google search a video, YouTube is shown first. There was a funny thing that happened in the infancy of this channel. YouTube, for whatever reason, Google removed my Timcast channel and this channel from YouTube search. If you typed in the title of a video, it would show you Facebook instead. YouTube would not come up.
Wow.
It's a funny move they made, which did not remove the ability of people to find my videos. It just drove them away from YouTube for whatever reason. And I think they realized the mistake. And then one day we were on this show and I said that. And then as we were talking, people started chatting, your videos are back on YouTube, meaning Google was listening when we were talking about it. And they're probably listening right now. And I'm with Rumble on this one. Not only is it insane, this idea that the YouTube mobile app is on all the devices, it's default, it can't be deleted. YouTube, reportedly, Alphabet subsidizes YouTube with extra cash to make their model function better. The cost of running a streaming platform. If I was going to upload a video, let's say it was 1 megabyte, and that very small video, 1 megabyte. Let's say it's 1 megabyte, and then 1 million people watch that video. That's 1 million megabytes down. I've got to spend that money. YouTube subsidizes this. No user of YouTube, like us right now live streaming, we don't see the cost going up to 38,000 people, which is massive. And we're streaming at like 8 megabits per second. A massive cost absorbed by YouTube so that they can maintain monopolistic control. This means that Rumble is never going to be able to compete. They've got these massive costs. And if they sell ads on their network, they're not going to be able to run it at the same percentage YouTube does, presumably. That being said, in full transparency, should Rumble win this one, it could upend the YouTube ecosystem massively. If Google is forced to split their ad company out of the Google network or YouTube and separate them, and then Google's ad network AdWords, if they're forced to serve all video platforms, including Rumble, that means the YouTuber share of revenue is probably going to drop dramatically, and it's going to massively alter the landscape. The good news is it means there will be massive competition for alternative video platforms. It means that advertisers will still have a choice if they want to appear on certain content, but it would mean that Rumble would become a viable contender in serving ads because YouTube couldn't lock anybody out. It means that people on YouTube will probably end up losing a lot of money.
Full disclosure, I have about 10 grand in Google stock. So before we get into it, I wanted to say that. I think it makes sense.
I got Rumble stock.
I think it makes sense that YouTube's search results would come higher on Google than Rumble would. The issue with Rumble is that they're an echo chamber, unfortunately, because they're not reaching that critical mass of audience. So good luck in their lawsuit against Google. They have some of the best lawyers in the game, I hope.
I agree and disagree with the echo chamber idea. YouTube's an echo chamber. YouTube's dominated by liberal politics.
Yes.
I think there's so many more categories than, like, even just outside of politics. Though,
Rumble
has
poker. Rumble has skateboarding. Rumble, like, If I pull up RumbleNet right now, they have SLS.
Yeah, but like I'm thinking about the amount of
Street League
users,
Skateboarding.
amount
Yeah,
of
Street League
videos,
Skateboarding.
amount of communities that exist.
Well, it's a small company.
On the platform. Yeah.
It's hard.
So-
YouTube is massive. I mean, they led the way on this video thing for a long time, and they have content that I don't know that Rumble has yet. But you're right. It's really hard to go up against Google. I mean,
the
Google's
end of the day, though, monopolistic type endeavors are always bad for innovation.
Yeah.
They just are, right?
Is Rumble even innovating
podcast.
though? They really just a copy and paste of YouTube. The real innovator would be like TikTok and their algorithm because that's a video platform.
Yeah, I mean-
if YouTube had a monopoly, then I don't know if TikTok would have
I'll just say
any.
real quick, Rumble is dominated by news and podcasts.
Definitely, yeah. But on YouTube, there's a lot of not politics. There's a lot of just normie, regular content. I don't know, cooking,
Super
cleaning.
regular. All of the mommy vloggers
nature,
are on YouTube.
just lifestyle vloggers,
Travel.
just a bunch of normie, regular stuff. Rumble's definitely dominated by the political scene, and that was kind of their angle, like the free speech platform. But I don't know if they're innovating. I don't know if they're bringing anything new to the table besides a little bit more alleged free speech.
The issue, though, right? If they're stymied on how much advertising dollars they can have, they have a lack of capital formation in terms of how they can try to innovate within that technology because they're not able to raise the capital to do it. Now, this might help them do that or help somebody else do that, and then we could become perhaps, and some other platform comes up that's even better than YouTube. I don't know, but the monopoly aspect of it, I think, is problematic. YouTube obviously is a juggernaut. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's got everything on there.
Right. What do you think West Virginia's role in terms of technology innovation is? Because at one point, this is sort of an off-topic question, but at one point I had seen that Wyoming was pushing to become sort of the crypto mining capital of the world because they have so much coal.
Yeah.
Where is West Virginia in sort of all of this? Because I've also known that West Virginia struggles with like internet infrastructure.
Yeah, so we were actually, we have talked to some crypto people, particularly miners, and because we have excess energy.
Right.
We have a massive amount of excess energy in West Virginia, particularly from coal and natural gas, and we generally export it out of states, and then they consume it. And we make money off that, and that's great, and it goes over the transmission lines. But because of that excess energy, we were thinking, and as we've talked to some of these, Bitcoin miners, things like that, is they do a lot of that in Texas, and which doesn't make a lot of sense because of the heat, right? So, I mean, they're running all these computations, and these servers have a tendency to overheat. What we were looking at doing was trying to put these in abandoned coal mines, which on average are about 55 degrees.
Wow.
They're quite a bit cooler. Put those servers down there and then let it run off the energy that we're generating from the coal-fired power plants and things like that, and the excess energy that we have, and they could get it really cheap. So this is a conversation we've been having a lot with different cryptocurrency companies, Bitcoin miners, things like that. So it is something that we're trying to incentivize and or rather enter into conversations with them to say, look, West Virginia's a great place to do this. We got a good climate for it. We got excess energy.
Yeah.
And we certainly are a place that believes a lot in freedom, and we were not going to bother you.
Because I wonder about that. I moved up to West Virginia a couple of years ago. I think it's great. Really, the credit to it more than anything else is the people. The culture is really special. But I remember, especially during COVID, the conversation was, especially students were going home. In southern parts of West Virginia, there's just not access to internet at home. Or
Yep.
I was at a video store, one of these places where you rent the DVDs.
You rent the
and
DVDs.
the person was like, well, people come down from their homes on the mountain and they rent the DVDs they have for the week, and then
Yep.
they go home. And next time they come to go grocery shopping or whatever, they return them. I mean, life is slightly different when you have a geographical challenge. But in some ways, because you have the coal mines, there are benefits to it.
There are benefits, and we are in the middle of an expansion of broadband internet right now, billions of dollars going into that throughout the state of West Virginia, RDOF grants and things like that. And the state has been able to ensure the construction of that, underwriting it essentially, because these companies aren't collateralized enough to be able to take on the loans. And so we're underwriting those. Actually, that is your state treasurer that's doing that. That's me. And which I'm very happy to do, because the problem is you got this last mile, right? That's so expensive. Some house that's down in some holler somewhere, then it doesn't make financial sense for that private company to do that. And because in my view, this is essentially a public utility, right? Like a road or phone line or this or that. And we need to treat it like that so everybody has greater access around the state of West Virginia. But rural broadband it's expensive. It is. But I think it's something that we need to do as a state and something that we've been constantly pushing on. And we got a lot of stuff under construction right now.
And do you think broadband is sort of the next milestone for economic development in West Virginia? That's my impression a lot of the time.
Yeah, the thing is, you can't. We've had a lot of economic development over the last several years, but it is critical. We have to have it. We have to have broadband to be able to, particularly in the southern coal fields, where there's such a lack of it and opportunity, but people want to remote work in places that are cheap to live, great people, like you mentioned. We got the greatest people, I think, in the whole country, and a great kind of lifestyle and a lot of natural beauty and a lot of things you can do. And that's why we're hoping to bring those remote workers in. We do have an Ascend program. It's called Ascend West Virginia, that if you are a remote worker, we will literally pay you to move here. So anybody listening, go to ascendwv.com, I think is the website. And we auction off different slots around the whole state throughout the year. And if you're a remote worker, I think we'll pay you, if I remember correctly, $15,000 to move to the state of West Virginia, $12,000, something like that. So we'll help pay your moving costs, the whole 9 yards, give you money, come to West Virginia.
Yeah. Right on. Let's jump to this next story. It's the big one, ladies and gentlemen. GameStop stock is back. The meme stocks and the stonks, whatever you want to call them. GameStop surges more than 110% as Roaring Kitty makes surprise comeback with cryptic post. GameStop shares surged as much as 110% on Monday after Roaring Kitty, the day trader who played a key role in the so-called meme stock rally of 2021, made a surprise comeback on social media, putting the squeeze on short sellers who lost $1 billion because of the rally. The meme was viewed 20 million times. He posted this picture of a gamer leaning forward as if he's getting serious. And, okay, there you go. Just by posting this, well, let's pull this up on X, see what the total engagement is so far. It's got 21.8 million views, 10,000 replies, 20,000 retweets, 107,000 likes, 5,200 bookmarks. This is the guy that started the meme stock craze in the first place. And so it looks like it is happening again. GameStop is surging. And so for those that aren't familiar with what happened back in 2021, this also has a huge impact on DJT stock. Let me see if I can pull up DJT on, here we go. We got it right here. We'll pull up the old Trump stock. Here it is. So something interesting happened when I met Donald Trump back in Mar-a-Lago. He mentioned that, Bill Pulte was talking about the Trump DJT stock going down. And Trump said, they're trying to short us. They're trying to force our stock to collapse. And it's really interesting because I had stated before the price dropped that I thought Trump supporters will buy stock in DJT just to have it. It's fun. That's what I did. I bought about a dozen shares because I was like, it's fun. Just have it. Just have some Trump stock. And then it dropped down to a low of, I think, $22.55 from a high previously of just about $72. And so right then I was like, wow, I guess I was wrong. I really thought it was Trump supporters who would not give up this stock. And I assumed it was people buying it for fun. As it turns out, when I was talking to Trump, he mentioned they're short selling it. It was an attack by institutional investors to destroy the value of the Trump stock, to hurt Trump's base and to hurt Trump and profit off of it. The price has since rebounded easily to $52. So apparently this was a short sale attack on Donald Trump. Wow. This is basically what GameStop was. These big institutional investors were buying shorts, basically a bet that a stock will fail. And because of it, it makes the stock fail because everyone's watching it and they're like, wow, why are they betting the stock to fail? So what happens with GameStop is all of these people on the internet, retail investors, meaning just regular old people, started buying the shares to drive the price up. And for those that aren't familiar with how a short sale works, I try to keep it as simple as possible, but it involves three parties. I borrow one share from Hannah Claire, tell her I'll give her the share back in a week, don't worry about it. I then sell the share to Elad for, let's say, $100. I'm hoping that by next week, the share price has collapsed. Let's say a week later, the price of the shares are now $10. I got $100 cash. I go and then buy a share for $10 and give the share back to Hannah Claire, pocketing the 90 difference. But if you short a stock and then the price starts going up, that means you're holding $100 cash, but now you need 200 to buy the share to give back to the person who lent it to you. Long story short, the more people buy GameStop, the more billionaires lose money. Andrew Tate got in on it and said diamond hands that he was going to put in something like $2 million. Someone tweeted at him, "You're going to lose $2 million just to screw some guy to billions." And he said, yes. And that's basically what we're seeing right now. It's funny, for all Occupy Wall Street is and for all the left claims to be, this is one of the most effective actual Robin Hood style campaigns that we've ever seen.
I think
Well,
they
I love the
halted
internet.
trading. They halted
They did.
trading, which is significant. I'm not a big stock guy. Full disclosure, I have zero stocks of GameStop. But yeah, they halted trading, which was significant.
Yeah,
they
they
also
did.
did this last time when it shot up.
Because it was too volatile. And then I think with Robinhood, I think everyone knows what Robinhood is, right?
Yes.
It's an app where you can trade very easily. It used to be difficult. You need a brokerage account, you needed a broker or something, and then they made it very easy where you just use Robinhood. I think the way Robinhood works, though, is that they're basically a company with brokers, and when you buy things on their app, you're not really buying it. You're just instructing them to buy.
I thought
something
it
like
was
that.
they sell the data of the trades that you make to those big hedge
That's how
funds.
they make money.
Oh, that's all. Yeah.
But my understanding is that if you go on Robinhood and you say, like, I want to buy one share, you only technically have the share, and that's how you're able to buy share fragments.
Oh, I see.
You can buy like 0.3 of a share or something because it's actually held by Robinhood, and you're like staking a claim in their share or something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong.
It sounds like what that situation was with like Bitcoin wallets where you thought you were buying them, but you only had like a proxy of them or something.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know,
like
I'm not-
crypto wallets, a lot of people don't realize because they go to an exchange, they'll buy it and they think they have the money, and it's like, well, yeah, but the account is held by that company. So everybody was saying, like, you doing that is kind of like going to a coin shop and asking them to hold your cash for you because you trust them, as opposed to putting the cash in your pocket or storing it in a safe in your closet. Sometimes banks make sense, but these aren't banks. You know, these exchanges are they're exchanges, and your money sitting on it could disappear overnight.
I think there was one infamous one, BitConnect, among many of where they eventually went
a
under.
whole bunch of them imploded and people lost all their money.
Do you think
You gotta wonder where
Americans
that
are
Bitcoin goes.
financially literate enough just to survive in the economic landscape that we have today? Like, I think when most people talk about stocks, even with the internet, the meme stocks, I think that was a motivator for a lot of people to learn about the stock market. Otherwise, it's sort of just noise that's on in the background.
Yeah, it's a very different environment than it was even 30, 40 years ago, right? I mean, you have computer programs and all that are working on algorithms as it relates to stock trading and all of that. I mean, which is faster than the human mind obviously can compute where that investment is, or trying to formulate what the next ETF is going to be, or this or that. And so obviously the billionaire class has a massive advantage here. And that's why this thing is so interesting, because they're kind of, if you don't think these guys, the billionaires, short the stock market all the time, they do that all the time.
Do you think
What
that
about Congress? Yeah.
people
Yeah.
should be banned from trading stocks?
Yes, I do.
Okay, interesting. Could you explain why? I mean, just so we get the...
Yeah, well, so just for me, I'll say as the state treasurer of West Virginia currently, I hold no stocks. I liquidated everything I had when I got elected just because I thought, you know what, I don't even want any sense of impropriety or anything like that.
So you don't have any investments, or is it just in real, you're completely divested, or...
I got 401k,
Okay.
But I'm not actively managing that,
But you're not day trading.
No, I'm not day
Yeah.
trading. Have I day traded in my life? Yes. Yes, I have. But I haven't done that as state treasurer. Now, in Congress, they're privy to so much information that the average individual is not, that they do have an informational advantage as it relates to the stock market. To me, could they put this, their stocks in trust or something like that, have some outside entity manage some? Sure. Yeah, that's fine. But the day trading aspect of it that's going on there, I think that's wrong. Putting, shares of some company. Look, you might have some guy that gets elected to Congress and owns shares in his own company. I'm not saying divest, liquid out of that, but put it into a trust, have it, passively managed or something outside, not where they can actively manage it.
Can I ask, why do you think so many Congress people then are still doing these trades? They do have to disclose it,
Yes.
and it's a bad look for them, but they're still engaging in this. So why do you think they continue to do so?
I think, in their view, just my guess, I don't know, but that most people aren't paying attention. Most people aren't paying attention. I mean,
and they don't understand. I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, I don't know if you know that Twitter account, Unusual Whales on X. Yeah, great account there. They do
Quiver Quantitative.
Yep, yeah, that's another one. They do a great job on that. I mean, basically, almost every member of Congress is beating like the S&P 500, right?
Dramatically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like they're crushing it. I mean, that's like they're better than Warren
What if they're
Buffett
just
at
really
this.
good?
Like, how's
That's
that?
an understatement.
I think there's an issue here with this is going to sound bad, but like, and obviously the way to make more income isn't by being corrupt, but if we're trying to attract the best talent to come to Washington, paying them, what is it, roughly 200?
I think it's 175, 174,
K. If you're genuinely talented, I mean, that's a lot of money, period. But for a lot of the best talent in the country, if you want to attract them over, $170-something is not going to cut it. And obviously it's not popular to say Congress deserves a raise or senators deserve a raise. But I think there is something to be said about if we are trying to attract the best talent, obviously.
Yeah, there's something to be said about it where, say you're a United States senator and you're cruising around the halls of the United States Senate meeting with like billionaires all the time and all these people that are highly successful and you're making $174,000 a year, which is probably more of a comment on some of the type of people we're electing, right? That they think that they should be on some equal footing, not only in terms of power, prestige, but also money. That's not why you should be doing these jobs, just to be clear. But yeah, I mean, it's
like if you could get paid 3, 4, 5 times as much in the private sector, and then you go work for the government just to constantly get slandered and have to deal with all the consequences.
Elad, do you know how much Caitlin Clark is going to make per year?
Like $80K, but a lot more in advertisements, I believe.
Exactly.
Okay.
The people who get the job of Congress are not thinking about $174K. They're thinking it's a job that pays $174K with a bonus structure of insider trading.
Yeah, and then after the fact, you get hired you get put on every board.
Oh yeah, Boeing's
imaginable.
waiting.
Yeah, you gotta get on the boards.
But then they wouldn't have to. It should be banned to begin with, but obviously Congress isn't going to ban itself from trading stocks. But yeah.
Well, I will tell you this, point blank: if that bill were to come up, I'd absolutely vote for it. And look, but just to be clear, if there's somebody who you're going to have to disconnect yourself from any securities that you own. It has to be, passively managed by somebody else. You can't be connected to that. You can't be day trading and sharing information with that money manager.
I mean, that's what Trump had to do, right, with the Trump organization.
Yes.
There is also something I think to be said about if you're already a millionaire and you're very well off, then you're not worried about the pay. So we're creating a bias towards rich people in Congress as well. Not that rich people are bad. I love rich people. I think rich people are great. But there is a bias then because if you're broke, then you will struggle to have 2 homes, one in D.C. and one in your district if you're only making that much. And then
and that is a lot of members of Congress. Many of them who are not these corrupt day traders, insider trading, and all that stuff. And there was, I believe, it's well known. Many of these members sleep in their congressional offices.
Yeah, they sleep in their office.
Not supposed to do that, but there's no one's going to kick you out, so they do it anyway.
Yeah, and the price of real estate in Washington, D.C., so it's like, what are they going to do? Like buy like $1 million condo
There's
or whatever?
an old video of Senator Schumer joking around with another one of his Democratic colleagues, and like they were joking around about living in this dump of a house in D.C., and it was just a shocking video. It felt like they were lying about it, though. It felt like they were just showing it to be like, oh, look how poor we're pretending to be. But
I suppose the easy thing for you is that we're like an hour from D.C. as it is.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to either drive in or take the train.
Easy.
Yeah, just cruise in.
I hate to say it, but hate and love to say it. I look forward to you being another member of the good members of Congress who are doing the right thing. And I also hate to say it because it's such a small group of people. It's frustrating sometimes, It is. And I really appreciate that. And, it just depends on the motivations, I think, of why you're doing this. And you do see people that are living there broke, sleeping in their offices and doing it for the right reasons. And then you got some people that apparently
somehow magically are better at trading stocks than Warren Buffett.
I gotta give it to Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, she's a killer.
When she opened up that freezer drawer with all that Jenny's ice cream, she had balls to do that. At a time when people are suffering, what was it, like during the lockdown and stuff, and she's like, look at all my $15 ice cream. It's wow.
She had like this $30,000 Sub-Z fridge.
Yeah.
Like,
She's like, I'm relatable, right? This makes me look relatable.
She's like, my husband's just so good at the stock market. I don't know how it happens. It's just the best.
There are 2 members of Congress who are co-owners of Major League Baseball teams. I always think that's like kind of funny.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember who it is. I'll find it in a second, or might have to tell you during the after show. But it is interesting because obviously you would have a variety of incomes pre-Congress. Like, you don't want it to be only one type of people. On the other hand, if you make it impossible to stay in this career, like you have a young family, you have to decide, like, is this service worth it, or am I taking too much of a financial hit? Am I not being able to provide for the people who depend on me the most, which are my children and, my spouse?
A big sacrifice for what? And especially in a time where I think we're seeing a lot of congressmen resign generally.
Oh, yeah.
There's a long list of them.
No, there's a lot of them resigning. And I mean, part of it too is just kind of, look, if you want to get into public service, like just right-sizing your life. I have a very modest home. I don't really own anything, just other than our house.
And you're going to be happy about it.
Yeah, and I'm happy about it.
All right, let's jump to this next story from the New York Post. Steve Buscemi spotted with black eye, swollen face after random New York City attack. I'm going to be completely honest with all of you guys. When I was watching Fox News and they announced this story, I started laughing. This is a guy who made a video for the Daily Wire. I believe it was him. And, I don't wish any harm on Steve Buscemi. I'm a fan. I like his work. His 30 Rock meme, his appearance where he was that private investigator and he goes to the high school and he's like, how do you do, fellow kids? Like, this guy's got some great work behind his belt.
Yeah.
But he went on the Daily Show, and I believe this is what it was him, and made provided a voiceover for the segment. Biden, perfectly adequate under the circumstances, where they basically did this joke where Trump was so bad that even though Biden was bad, it was perfectly acceptable. It was perfectly adequate. And so, I don't want to put the weight of all of the weird crime we're seeing just on Joe Biden, but it's on the Democrats as a whole.
Yeah.
Perfectly adequate. What was so bad under Trump? I think what I can really say is, I don't mean to belittle the fact some guy attacked him. That's horrifying. But I hope people like Steve wake up now and realize all of that propaganda about how under Trump it was the worst country, the country was in dire straits, it was the worst thing imaginable, can truly now understand it was actually pretty good.
It was really good.
Right.
We're just talking about the stock market. I mean, remember what your 401k looked like then. Doing pretty well under Donald Trump.
The best numbers of our lives.
Yes.
It's funny because that's what Jim Cramer said. And you know what it means when Jim Cramer says something? The opposite then happens.
Yes, correct.
And after he says this, the next administration gives us Joe Biden and
yeah.
I think a lot of these incidents in New York City are particularly unfortunate because these are preventable in my belief, but there just isn't the political will in the city to prevent crimes like this. There's like a top 100 worst offenders who commit like 80 or 90% of the crimes in the city. If there was the political will to deal with the worst criminals, we'd see a dramatic decrease in attacks like this. Many of these attackers are repeat offenders, but because of some soft on crime policies, because of a lot of different reasons, because of how democratic the city is, people just don't want to deal with the issues like this. And if you're not in the right mental capacity, if you're a drug addict, if you're a homeless person on the street, we need to have a responsible way to do outreach to you, and allowing you to fester and have manic episodes and attack others on the street isn't ethical. It's not moral to you, to the person, or any of these victims. So I think it's unfortunate because these are preventable in my estimation.
I mean, you live there. Yeah, I mean, just outside observer, I mean, wouldn't you say crime is worse in New York than it's been?
I think there's something to say about if you look like a stereotypical easy lick, then you're more likely to get attacked. That is, like, if you look like he looks like an old man who can't defend himself. If you're a woman, if you're an Asian, you're more likely to be, I think, picked on, unfortunately, by bullies in the city. And we have opportunities to stop this. We in New York City elected a cop mayor, Eric Adams, a former cop mayor, and he's putting more people on the subway. At one time, the National Guard was supposed to come in with Kathy Hochul on the subway and whatnot, but it's a real issue we're seeing.
I just figured, because you live up there, you like living dangerously. You're an adrenaline junkie, and you're replacing skydiving with walking the streets of New York.
I mean, it's really the cultural mecca, I think, of the United States. It really is the epicenter, I think, of the United States, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I used to think that.
Pitch? Yeah.
I did think that too. I remember the first time I went to New York, and it depends on the culture, but Los Angeles, of course, is massive. Nashville's massive for music, and New York is, of course, massive for a lot of things. And I went to New York for the first time, and it was Occupy Wall Street. First time I drove across, man, I don't even remember what I drove across. It must have been the Brooklyn Bridge or something. No, it wouldn't have been the Brooklyn Bridge. I don't remember. All I know is I remember looking up at the city and thinking like, man, this is crazy how big this place is. Yeah. I think it was Brooklyn. I think I went south through like Staten Island into Brooklyn or something. And once there, the amount of available opportunity was massive. And then after a couple of years, it started to not be. And then there were a few bombings. There were riots. Things started to get more and more unstable. And then it sort of flattened out. And that's when I was like, New York is no longer offering what it was, 4 years ago. I'd been in New York for like 4 or 5 years. And I was like, now it's just, there's not much going on. It's sort of flattened out, especially with the internet. A lot of people are working in, other places. And then with the riots and the crime, there were a couple bombings, a bombing in Manhattan on like 25th Street. I'm just like, I'm going to go to Jersey.
Yeah.
And then slowly moved further and further away. And now I would argue New York is a cultural mecca. It's the anti-culture. It is the mecca of the destruction of this country. And I find the culture of New York to be akin to walking through a swamp. It's not the swamp. That one's, what do we got? Like 60 miles due east.
Yep.
But New York is a different kind of disgusting slime-filled bog with monsters lurking its streets and brave adventurers like Elad carrying a torch through the wilderness.
So I don't think New York City is for the faint of heart. But I think, in my estimation, Brooklyn alone, the borough of Brooklyn alone, is better than most cities. I don't know if that's selling Tim on anything because he hates cities.
No, it's a city that voted for a cop mayor who's still a Democrat who's still not solving any of the problems.
There are a ton of issues in New York City, and there's no denying that. But here's the thing. If you want the highest paying jobs in the country are in New York City. If you want to make it on Broadway, you're in New York City. If you want to make it in fashion, you're in New York City. If you want to make it as a hotshot lawyer, all the best and biggest law firms are in New York City. Everything, all the relevant things.
This is the thing that I love about like native New Yorkers. I have a family friend. She's from New York. Everyone in her family's always been from New York. They live like, right in the heart of Manhattan. And she was like, well, New York is the center of the universe. Like, I wish more places felt as proud of where they are as like native New Yorkers who are like, everything good happens from the city. And even though people are getting punched on the street, I will defend it. Like, I think it's interesting.
At least he's still alive. Well, he didn't get shot.
What if more states had cities that like people were like, no, that's the best place. I'm going to live there until like, we would stop seeing this mass exodus. I know that's something West Virginia struggles with, of young people who are like, there's no opportunity here. Like, I wish there were more cities in the country that, even mid-sized cities where people are like, this is the best place and I want to be here.
The opportunity availability in New York has gone way down and the cost of living has gone way up. It's no longer. So when I left, it was at the point where I was in a 1-bedroom that they called a 2-bedroom because they put up a wall in. So you had a kitchen and you had a bedroom and they sectioned off part of the kitchen into another bedroom and called it a 2-bedroom. and like, so where's the living room? The kitchen?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I think if you're a young man, the gender ratio in New York City is already like 60-40. And then amongst those
60-40 male to female?
Yeah. Or 60% female, 40% male. And then among the males,
that makes sense.
About 25% of them are gay. So your numbers in New York City are really good. So if you're a young man, want to go on a quick adventure, a few years in and out, if you can make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere.
Right. And the best thing is the moral predisposition of these women means you're not going to have any kids, even if you wanted to.
You could rescue them in New York City.
In and out.
You rescue them and then you leave. You take them back to where you came from.
When I was there, I had this very small apartment, a couple hundred. I mean, it was very small. It was 2 rooms and a kitchen, and it is relatively small. And it was $2,100 a month. And then when I left, when my lease ended, it jumped up to like $2,350. And because I knew the person who actually moved in, I met him later, and they were like, it's $23.50 now, and I was like, wow. I was like, just right away up a couple $100, and it's probably 3 something now or more. But no one's making that much money in the city, so the opportunity's down, the costs are way up. You look at this city, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're correct. It's probably mostly women, for whatever.
Especially in the younger demographic, yeah.
There was a funny post I saw on X where a woman said she went to a frat party, and the dude started playing the national anthem and waving American flags, and all the women got silent and started looking around at each other. And that's actually what we're seeing: women overwhelmingly leftist, men becoming overwhelmingly right. That split's happening. So considering the politics of New York, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And then perhaps that could explain why the crime is so high. There's less men who are working the public response, police, firefighters, etc. More women walking the streets, and then deranged criminals are like, this is the place to be. No one can stop you. They want to defund the cops. The cops are nowhere to be found. And it's mostly a bunch of defenseless women walking down the streets who can't have guns. New York is awful.
Attacks like this need to be stopped.
New York is awful. And I agree with you. It is like the anti-culture. It is not a conducive or friendly environment as it relates to starting families. And I'm not talking about like below replacement rate. Like, I have 1 kid. We did it. It's just not a conducive environment to that. I mean, obviously I'm biased here. West Virginia is far superior to New York.
Agreed.
Look, in West Virginia, family is the most important thing in our communities. It just is, and it's the center of the universe for us is family. And that's what I think we need to get back to as this country. And now, look, New York at one point probably was more like that. Certainly not like that now.
Did you mention something earlier about the I don't know if West Virginia's still doing this, or if you brought it up, that if people move here,
yes,
there's a grant or something.
Yes, it's called Ascend WV, Ascend West Virginia, and I believe it's $12,000 to $15,000 we will give you as a remote worker to move to the state of West Virginia.
How long do you have to be here in order to qualify for it? And how long after you get here are you still eligible for it?
Yeah, so there is a residency requirement, and I think it's like a year or two. That you have to do that.
I think basically Timcast employees are looking at some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's by county, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not
so
open
they'll
in all
open it
counties.
up like an auction essentially and say, okay, Morgantown is now open and we got 1,000 slots here. And then they'll do Jefferson County's open. There'll be 1,000 slots, and they'll do it all around the state, kind of auctioned off. And basically you enter like a lottery to win it. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity is here. That's why we're here, and we've, at first our operation was split partly in Maryland, but we were on the border, literally 10 seconds away.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake. Shouldn't have done it. And now we're 100% everything is here in West Virginia, and this is where the real opportunity is. It is a much lower cost of living. There's a lot of land. It's cheap. It's available.
Yep.
You're when you're coming out here, you're not thinking about renting for $3,000. You're thinking about it's $3,000 a month to rent in New York. It's $1,300 to own out here.
Yes.
West Virginia, it's a beautiful state, but I think it has like one of the lowest GDP per capita.
So what? You're an hour from DC. So here's what we did.
Yeah, but the people in West Virginia still aren't having a lot of opportunity. Then that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a bad place for jobs. It's a bad place for work. If
Let's
your
ask
GDP,
the treasurer.
But
am I wrong here though? No, I'm sure you know the stats better than I do.
Yeah, but look, if you're talking about GDP, all of it's relative. So in southern West Virginia, your average home is like $70,000. So
you're making what you need.
So
So when we were looking at where to set up the studio, first we were in Jersey, and we were in like the Woodbury area. So we're literally 10 minutes over the bridge from Philly, and we were looking at a building that I think was like 7,000 square feet, and it was $350,000. And then the sale fell through, and I was like, oh, that whatever. Fortunate for us, COVID then happens, and we're like, wow, we shouldn't do that anyway. I looked at a bunch of places. I looked at Montana. I'm like, how cool would it be to just be in the middle of mountains, away from everything? Airports, expensive. Bringing guests out, you're basically flying everybody from the East Coast to the West Coast, which is massively expensive. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't afford to do that. So I looked at, what if we go north of New York? Oh, good luck. All the way north to Connecticut, New Hampshire. It's ridiculously expensive. Maine's not bad. Still a little bit expensive, and the airport is okay, but then you're basically flying everybody south. It gets expensive. So I'm like, we need something central. Cassandra recommended West Virginia. And I was like, that could work. And so what we looked at was, let's say we go to New York. And I was like, what if we went to Chicago or New York? And it's like, anywhere you go in those cities, the drive from the airport's an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if we were to set up in Manhattan or even Williamsburg or, in Bay Ridge in New York, we're talking an hour and a half from someone landing at the airport and then being driven to the studio, not to mention tolls, taxes. The taxes are insane. And I was like, if we set up in West Virginia and drive an hour to the airport, at least you're moving fast. Because I'll tell you this, I would rather drive an hour and a half at 65 miles an hour than drive an hour and a half at 10 miles an hour.
Yes, no doubt.
And so I was just like, we can get cheaper land, we get bigger space, we can build more, we can expand more. And in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, with better laws, constitutional carry, we have less security costs, and we can hop in the car and we can be in DC, we can be in Reston, we can be in there's Frederick even. You've got big cities. But in terms of like, if you're somebody who's got I want to go to the scene and go to steakhouse, it's 50 minutes. 50 from here to there. If you were in Brooklyn, it'd be the same thing. And if you're in Bay Ridge, it's going to take even longer than that. So the costs are way less. The land is way cheaper. Your cost of living is way cheaper. You still have all of these urban metros available to you. From where we are, Pittsburgh's what, 2 hours? Two and a half?
2.5, yeah.
2.5 hours to Pittsburgh. Then you've got Philly, which is 3. You've got DC, which is an hour. Baltimore's an hour. Richmond is probably what, 3?
I think
About
it's
3.
2,
Yeah.
2.5, 3 hours?
Yeah, 2.5, 3.
So I'm just saying, I get it. But I'm looking at this right. If I'm going to build a company, building in New York is the stupidest move imaginable. Building on the West Coast, also very, very. Look, the West Coast, it's just obvious. There's very few markets. There's much less people, and it's expensive to operate. East Coast is where it's at for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to operate in New York or even any of these big East Coast cities, it's going to be expensive, dangerous, hard to move, hard to get space. And look, there are worse places than New York, but New York is not a good place. That's why at first we were like, if we're on the Jersey side of things, we get cheaper real estate, more space, and we still have access to New York. And it was, look, we were in the Woodbury area, like I mentioned, when the Summer of Love happened. And I thought to myself, we're fine. Philly's going nuts. There's shootouts. There's craziness going on. But that's why we're on the other side of the bridge in Jersey. And then the riders crossed the bridge into our area, and I could hear the helicopters not too far from my house. And I was like, I don't want to be in a place like this. Because in New Jersey, if someone kicks in your door and literally screams they're going to kill you, you can't defend yourself. They'll tell you day and night you can, but you cannot. In West Virginia, it's constitutional carry. You walk into the gun shop, you fill up your NICS form, they hand you your gun, and you put it in your holster and you walk out.
Yep, and we also have castle doctrine here. So we have castle doctrine in the state of West Virginia. Anybody enters your house without permission, and you can shoot that person.
And I think that's important, but an important distinction that the onus is not on you to make. In New Jersey, if someone breaks in your house, you are responsible to determine whether or not there's a threat and avoid that threat. I think that's insane. If someone breaks into my house, how could I assume anything other than they're trying to hurt me? They're entering my home. And in New Jersey, you have to flee your home. They literally say, if you have the ability to flee, you must.
Yep.
And I'm like, flee to where?
And I think they got the same thing in D.C. because, they
you can't even have guns in D.C.
can't have guns in D.C. But in West Virginia, you're the one that entered the home, armed or unarmed, you're going to get shot.
The presumption in West Virginia is that if someone enters your property, they have done you wrong. There's still a reasonable expectation on the property owner to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
If someone walks on, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know better, but if someone comes onto your land, and West Virginia is particularly good with this because a lot of property is large acreage.
Yes.
It is still presumed that you can perceive a threat and you'll be defended if someone illegally enters your land. But someone walks onto your open land, you can't just shoot them.
No, you can't just shoot somebody onto open land. And obviously we got a lot of hunters and all that other stuff. And so, but if somebody is, let's say, on your front yard threatening you with violence, with a firearm, you can shoot that person.
I will say I'm envious of your firearms.
Yeah,
that's
New York doesn't seem so great right now, does it?
Yeah. I'm very jealous.
And the crazy thing is,
for real though,
I told this story. I was walking, I think it was like near Charlestown or wherever. A guy was carrying a crossbow with a bunch of bolts. No one cared.
No.
This guy's not attacking anybody. Nobody cares. It's just it was a guy who had his hunting equipment
Tim,
with him.
there are homeless guys on the subway carrying around knives. Nobody cares. I don't know why you're making such a big deal. Nobody cares. It's the same thing.
You are right.
Nobody cares.
I was at Home Depot recently, and it's just somebody open carrying a firearm. Nobody cares about it. Nobody thinks about it. It's just kind of, it's the way it is. No problem.
He probably got decked in the face. Everybody around him probably didn't care. Nobody blinked an eye.
Yeah, but it's not the kind of caring that you're not caring that you're like. I mean, it's one thing if you don't care because everyone has the freedom to. It's one thing if you don't care because actually turning a blind eye to violence.
Tim's pulling up something
Yeah.
important.
Neighborhoodscout.com. That's what I'm looking up. I'm not doing this under the assumption. Okay, so West Virginia's crime is just about half of. It's West Virginia's crime is below the national median at 2.78 per capita, violent crime per 1,000 residents, and New York's is 4.29, just slightly above. So there
Chances
you go.
in being a victim of violent crime, 100 and 200.
1 in 233, and 1 in 360 in West Virginia.
There's so much space in between people here. It's like you can't even have the opportunity to bump a shoulder and get into a fight. It's like what are you going to fight
You
a cow
still
here?
run into people. Like we ran into each other on Saturday at Black Dog Coffee in Shenandoah Junction. Like I was just like, oh, he's here. He's right. Like I think that's one of the things that I like about rural communities is like people really do get to know each other. And even if you're not best friends with everyone, there is a level of familiarity. Whereas with New York, like, again, there are things that I loved about New York, like museums, stuff like that. You're not necessarily going to get that. You give some of it up. But if you're thinking long-term, if you're thinking about having a family, anything like that, like you want to go somewhere where you run into your potential congressman.
Anything though. Check it out. Okay. You, dear viewer, you're 19 years old. You want to start a TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, some kind of channel. You're a big Pokemon card player. You decided you're going to do a booster pack opening channel. You ever see these? They put a camera in front of them, and then they take the booster pack in front of it, and they open it up, and they very slowly go through the cards, and people love to watch this stuff.
Really?
In what reality would you want to do that in New York City, where your rent is $3,000? For $3,000, you can own your own house with 5 acres in West Virginia.
Yes.
And if you go further in out of the Panhandle, it gets better and better. With high-speed internet being, not everywhere, broadband has got to get fixed.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's even a thought. Like,
well, it's because it's rural broadband.
There's rural places and everywhere. There's parts of upstate New York that didn't have internet. We were considering upstate New York, no internet there, and Starlink makes things pretty awesome. But
and Starlink's here too, by the way, in West Virginia.
We have it. We have two Starlink backups for our system. If you're a lot of digital business can be run from anywhere. So why not go somewhere with lower cost of living, with more land, more space, fresher air, greener pastures? And then when you're buying your equipment, if you're spending 35% of your income, 35% of what you would normally spend on rent, as opposed to New York, you've got extra money for building your setup and starting your business. I'm not saying everyone's going to be a vlogger or a podcaster or something like this, but there's a lot of opportunity in digital sales and online business. And that being said, we should stop debating that and go to Super Chats. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com and click join us so you can support the show. We rely on your membership support for the show to run, and also you get access to our call-in show. The members call-in show, uncensored, at 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday. It's a lot of fun, and you as a member can actually call in. Clint Torres is back with the first Super Chat saying, howdy, people. And unfortunately for a token black guy, howdy, people in second place. He tried, though. Kyle says, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, right? Or is it Kale? I don't know, Kyle. As of today, Chronic Golf and Games is excited to be a part of your wholesale program. Whole bean ground and cold brew can be purchased at our location in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Woo! Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much. Earlier today, Allison and Sarah informed me that we officially have a wholesaler who is now buying Cast Brew Coffee to sell at their location. Very awesome, and thank you so much for supporting Cast Brew Coffee. The main goal, of course, is, and I'll keep it simple, we started a coffee product because my family actually owned a coffee shop in the past. And in terms of creating physical locations where people can hang out and organize, coffee really is the quickest and fastest way to get things up and running. So with the family experience and with the ease of access, that's the route we went. And we hope to have more in the future. Protein powders, supplements, teas, all that good stuff. Cal also says, check out the song The Gatsby Expressed by Sweet Plot. Well, all right. Steven says, the The American people are sick of being taken for suckers by the collectivist left and right. We want liberty and rule of law, not rule by liars.
Amen.
Yeah. Manhoden says, Tim, GameStop is moving because of call options that were bought weeks ago. Roaring Kitty tweeted after these call options were in the money, so cause and effect is reversed. These options are bought weeks before his tweet. So you're saying that he tweeted because the options were hitting, and his leaning forward in his chair was because he was seeing the action rising. Is that what you're saying? That would make sense. All right.
Do you think that guy knew what he would become when he picked the name Roaring Kitty?
Nope.
Was that intentional?
Probably not.
There are a lot of people who have funny usernames. Johnny Haynes, one of the skaters for the Boonies, username is Llama Hands with a Z. Perhaps he did not realize that he was going to be, he's been skating for a while, but the clips that he's getting and the views he's getting, it's like you ask someone, what's your Instagram? Llama Hands, and you're like, oh, that's a weird name. But hey, there you go. You never know. All right.
I think when social media came out, people didn't realize that it would become part of their professional identity.
Right.
Yeah. Tyler Page says, I'm 33 and listen to every episode of IRL at dialysis. I can't afford my medications or gas money to get to dialysis. Anything helps. GoFundMe, Tyler Page dialysis and medical costs. Let's see if I can pull this up, because we did actually have a super chatter who sent money specifically to help out someone in need. And so for that, let's see if I can, Tyler Page dialysis and medical bills. Is this it? What do you say? It's Tyler Page. I have found it. All right. So we will help you out, good sir. And we'll see. There's a super chat for $100 in there saying they want to be sent to someone who needed it. All right, let's go. What is this? Lawrence Van Dorn says, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you and your family on Saturday evening. We love the show. We were extremely impressed with y'all taking the time to chat with us. Meant a lot to us both. Well, right on. Thank you very much. Oh yeah. That was great. When we were at dinner, we saw you outside. That was fantastic. Nice meeting you, Lawrence. We were getting food for Mother's Day, and met a kind gentleman outside.
That's
and
fun.
we got to talk for a few minutes, and
Nice.
it was great. He said he bought our coffee, and we were like, well, thank you very much, Lawrence. It was great meeting you. Emily Ziegler says, last week of chemo and radiation, can you please share our give, send, go for my medical bills? Ziegler, Can Med Bills. Thank you so much. We have 4 kids, 3 cats, and a dog. Well, best of luck. Well, I suppose. Oh man, it's tough. Two individuals in need of assistance. We'll see what we can do.
Miss Ziegler and Tyler, we're pulling for you. We're
Yeah.
keeping you guys in our thoughts.
Yep.
Pull through, and we're praying for you.
All right. A lot of people. Something happened where someone super chatted asking for assistance with something, and then I gave it to him, and then someone else asked, and then someone's like, I'm going to be late on my rent. I need help. So I was like, I'll pay your rent, and I paid his rent. And then someone else needed their rent paid, so I paid his rent.
You're about to be Mr. Beast.
Yeah, it's like a political show where at the end we just start giving money away for some reason.
You're very philanthropic. No, it's important to give.
It's like within reason. I don't know. It's because we want to do this program where we gave 10 grand a month as like a grant towards a cultural endeavor, but legal hurdles make it very difficult to do. If it's members, it's a sweepstakes. If I said something like you have to super chat it, which is certainly not the case, that could be considered a sweepstakes. There's weird laws about giving money away and whether it's taxable or not. And so ultimately we just hit a wall with it. And we were like, I don't know if we can actually navigate this like grant program through this company. We'd have to start like a nonprofit and have money in it to make it simple. Something like that. But so essentially, I have been making donations to various individuals periodically. A couple people I've given like 10 grand towards their cultural endeavor. I don't want to call them out because it's up to them to just do the work they want to do, and without me saying like, hey, look, I gave them money. But stuff that people in this who watch the show would be very happy to hear about.
I commend you for giving to charity, but I think it's more of it speaks to the state of
it's
the
not
country. Yeah.
So there are some individuals that people are fans of that are dedicating their lives to good causes, and I've given them gifts like no consideration. It's for you to do whatever you want with, and because I know that they're doing good things with their lives. So
That's
it's
awesome.
It's a I don't know. It's just like, hey man, I've seen what you've done, and it's good, and it's helping everyone else. So it's up to these people if they want to come out and say that I sent them any money, because I don't want to do that. But that's kind of the plan. So when it came to someone saying they need their rent paid, I was like, I gotta do something like that. You know what I mean? Can't do it too much. You know, basically the budget was around like $10K per month towards helping people in some way. And what I've mostly been doing is like, if someone is a prominent activist, I'm trying to do like a mini Soros thing where it's like, I see that billionaire guy. So if someone's like fighting to protect women's sports or something like that, I'll be like, hey, you know, here you go. If someone's working on like, I think I'm a member of like 3 or 4 different gun rights organizations. So I get all these things in the mail of like, you know, that stuff I definitely care about.
I remember as soon as Taylor got involved with her whole skateboard issue, you were quick to bring her on and try to bring her in and help her any way you can. So it's good work.
She got she got her own board for the boonies. Her Taylor Silverman skateboard.
Yeah, she rips.
Yeah, you know, it's you know what I was thinking too is like, well, I skateboard, so this was a no-brainer for me. It's like someone who's willing to stand up and defend women's rights. Is Taylor Silverman, by the way, shout out. Definitely needs the support. If you're like a college level like swimmer, you're like facing like it's like an Olympic level thing. That's so prominent in the forefront. But skateboarding is such a smaller thing.
Yeah, and you're on your own.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like you're trying to make it in skateboarding. You're on your own. Yeah. I mean, you're just kind of doing it on your own. You're trying to pick up your own sponsors. I mean, there's not like a whole like the same level of system like Tim's saying as it is like college sports. And by the way, I don't know if you all saw this or not, but there's brave girls down in southern West Virginia that decided, you know what, we're not doing the shot put with you. We are boycotting this. We're not going to do it.
And they got banned.
Yeah, and they got banned.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so there's lawsuits coming on that. We are challenging. We had the 4th District, unfortunately, knock down our women's sports rights bill here in West Virginia. That's federal court, by the way. Weird world we're now in. 4th District is worse than the 9th. 9th is better now, strangely. But it is being challenged. The state is going to try to take that to the United States Supreme Court.
All right. Dan998 says, hi, Tim. Love your work. What is your take on Fulton County missing 380,000 vote photo record from the 2020 election? I am not surprised. Do you guys hear the story?
No.
First of all, they've already had, I believe they're getting chastised for having like a bunch of voter errors in 2020 that everyone already knew about. But apparently there's some story, I haven't read too much into it. I don't know if you saw that one. 380,000 missing vote records.
What?
It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, look, the system is completely broken. That's why I'm saying like Trump can pull in 1 million people to a rally and shadow campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
I mean,
we used to live in a country where you knew who won the election the day of the election. Like how we got
concept.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like we've gotten like worse. I don't think it's just that we've gotten worse. I think that there's something going on in some of these places.
And I think this is bad ultimately for, you know, a sense of patriotism and national morale, right?
Well,
if you think your vote doesn't matter, you're going to really think that when it turns out the votes don't even show up where they're supposed to.
Well, people are looking at this right now, West Virginia. It's like, oh, early voting is down. It's slightly lower. Early voting's going on. Well, was going on until Saturday, and it's slightly down because people don't trust early voting. They want to vote the day of. And all of this mail-in ballot, we don't do that in West Virginia, by the way, but all this mail-in ballot and all this other nonsense and drop boxes and this, all it does, the end of the day, when it takes a month to know how an election turned out, is erode the confidence in the system and erode confidence in the country.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's awful. I mean, I really think that this is the biggest challenge that one of the biggest challenges America has right now is creating a cohesive culture and attitude that encourages people to participate. And I mean that in terms of having families going out to vote. And every obstacle against you is like, well, it's so expensive. You can't afford children. And also your votes go missing. And also, you know, they don't listen to you anyways. And also, you know, like it's constant problems that just burden the mind in a way that, you know, I think is meant to destroy us internally.
And some state passed a law here recently. It may have been Texas. I can't remember what state it was. If it's not Texas, sorry, I'm wrong. But some state passed a law here recently that said you have to count all ballots within 48 hours.
I can't believe we need a law to say that, though. You know,
I know, right? Yeah.
All right. John Burt says foie gras and biltong money for Serge with the super chat. Is there a foie gras thing going on?
Is that a South African thing, Serge? No.
He's
Foie
just getting
gras?
really fancy.
Have you ever had it?
No, what is it like? Duck liver?
Yeah, it's
Fat.
diseased duck liver. I'm not a big fan.
I'm not trying that.
You take a duck and they shove a tube of like corn and oil into its throat and pump its stomach full of it, and then diseases the liver and makes it massive and fatty. And so they torture the animal before killing it to make its liver.
Is PETA against this? I'm assuming all the animal rights
it's
people
illegal in
are
certain
super
states,
against
right?
it.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't think it's really that good. It doesn't really warrant the.
What's
Yeah, I
the
don't
country
know.
of origin? Is this French?
I think it's French. Yeah.
It feels French.
Yes.
They would.
Yeah, I don't know.
They would.
That's so specific. Like, oh, it's not only duck liver; it's like fattened duck liver. Very specific. Diseased duck liver.
Yeah, you strain the animal until it like its liver is failing, and then eat its delicious fatty liver. But I don't think it's that good. That's the thing. I'm not a big duck fan. I don't know. You like duck?
Every once in a while. I'm not a huge duck fan.
Yeah. There's a reason why chicken is so popular.
Oh, yeah.
They are tasty critters. They are tasty little birds, and they're funny too, to boot. All right, we'll grab some more super chats. Terry Hesticles says, Riley Moore, any relation to Michael Moore?
Zero. No.
But I bet if you go back far enough,
If you went back far enough, perhaps.
it's like 400 years ago, it's where the family split. Probably if the name's there,
Yeah.
It all goes back to one guy named Moore. Let's grab some super chats. Where are we? Uh-oh. Wyatt's dad says, my chickens are getting kicked out of the coop by a sly fox. Need 1K rent money. So you weren't referring to actual chickens, but it was very clever how you worded that to get me to read it. They listened to IRL and spent it on emergency food. And he says, Trinidad Shabbat of pressure. Please help Concrete Rob. Best of luck, Rob. All right. What do we have here?
Do you have chickens, Riley?
No, I don't. My neighbors have chickens.
You live in West Virginia. You have no chickens?
I know. My wife, we're talking about getting chickens. We don't have any chickens right now.
You get a couple. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Travis Boss says, Riley, Alex Mooney seemed to be taking his voting cues in all the right ways from Thomas Massey, often one of a handful of votes against the deep state. Would you take up this mantle as our representative, Travis from Berkeley County?
Yeah, Travis, if you look at my voting record when I was in the state legislature, I had one of the most conservative voting records in the entire state legislature. So it's going to look exactly like that if elected to Congress.
So how does this happen? Honest question. You're a skateboarder, and you're a very conservative family man upholding all these values, but skateboarding as a culture was very... I mean this in the literal side of the word, punk and anti-establishment.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. And, this might surprise some people, but growing up, I wasn't political at all. I didn't really think about any of that stuff. I wasn't engaged. Got into skateboarding, loved skateboarding. And then as I kind of became like politically active, I would say I was more of a libertarian, more libertarian.
Yeah, makes sense.
And, as time went on and my views kind of evolved and became really conservative, but I still love skateboarding. I mean, I think it's a great sport, and, it's good to get kids outside. I mean, and there's the best thing about skateboarding. I remember growing up, nobody talked about politics, really. I mean, like, you'd go skate and you're just hanging out with people, and, you're just psyched on whatever guy's doing some trick that he's been trying for, like, the last 6 hours or whatever. And
this is what we need more of. I think skate parks have been kind of bad for us in that there used to be pop-up skate demos.
Yeah.
And people would bring their kids and they'd watch people do tricks, and then the kids would be like, I want to skate. Now with the skate park, it's very centralized. And so it might have been, oh, hey, there's going to be a bunch of people skateboarding in this parking lot near our school. Let's go check it out. And there's going to be drinks. Now it's at the skate park. And so really, if you have no reason to be at the skate park, you don't go to the skate park.
yeah.
So I feel like we need more of these. It doesn't even need to be skateboarding. I'm just saying in general, these pop-up community events that happen periodically. I do love the Charlestown Farmers Market on the weekends, though.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, those are fantastic.
So way back in the day, like in the 90s, this is like 99, something like that. Do you remember like Tony Hawk, Dave Mirra, all them were doing like this like tour around the country? They came to...
Was it Boom Boom Huck Jam?
Maybe
That was a big...
No,
event,
it wasn't that one. But they came to Leesburg Skate Park in Virginia, and there were thousands of people there. It was like people were just losing them. Then Brian Sumner was there.
Oh,
so it was
wow.
like that kind of time.
Yeah.
Maybe Willie Santos, and it was like just mind blowing. It was like, oh my God, it's Tony Hawk.
You know, it's kind of
Dave
funny
Mirra.
though. Like the most famous skateboarders, aside from like the top 5 pro skateboarders who are actual celebrities for whatever reason, most of the big name skateboarders have like the people you name like 30,000 followers. And it's like to a skateboarder, you're naming Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and to everyone else, like, I don't care who these people are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say Brian Sumner. It's like, oh shit, Brian Sumner.
After Dave Mirra, I didn't. Yeah, it was Tony Hawk. I was surprised Dave Mirra, and then
I didn't get any. You guys just looked
Yeah,
happy,
Mira's a
and I was
BMX
like,
guy.
"That's great."
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
Mirror's BMX guy.
It feels like the skater like Bam Margera types took a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, but like Willie Santos, right? Willie Santos, legend. I mean, that whole Birdhouse crew. Andrew Reynolds was on there back in the day. He wasn't there, unfortunately, for the tour. But yeah.
All right, let's read this one. We got Chris Bialcino, who says, I don't know what that says, and I don't speak that language. I'm just going to say, he says, hi from Guam. Tim, I'm a longtime listener and a member, and today's my birthday. For my birthday, I'm super chatting $100 for you to help donate funds to help a listener in need. And I think, I know there's a lot of serious ones. Some people say there's some brain tumors, but I think the guy who needs dialysis, we're gonna help keep him alive. I feel like the dialysis is it's like, man, brain tumor is very pressing as well, but dialysis, like you could die in a week.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he said he was a young man, 33, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
yeah.
So we'll keep you guys in our thoughts. And
Noor Alayi says, I would prefer to super chat on the Mean Green New Tech app. We all have that app on our Rokus and phones. Give us the option and we'll take it. I understand that you have a responsibility to take care of your people first. No worries, just food for thought. Yeah, so I will say this. I don't know how this will have an impact on Rumble's legal case against Google, but YouTube owns online video. The cost is immeasurable. We're on Rumble because we want Rumble to win, because we need competition. We have to accept that.
Yes.
But we don't make money off Rumble videos. So I don't want to, like, someone super chatted saying they watch on YouTube for the revenue. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. We want people to just watch where they watch. But without the YouTube ad revenue, we're in the red and we're sinking. And that's why I shifted after the 2020 election that's why we created the membership program, because I was like, we cannot rely on YouTube ad revenue for this reason, because of censorship and because of the need for competition. So we have to build our own site and our own base. But right now we still rely on YouTube revenue, which the ad revenue on IRL it's relatively small, 20 to 30%, but we do. And we actually lost a decent amount of money with our move to Rumble by duplicating the videos. People who watch on Facebook, we get paid. People watch on YouTube, we get paid. People watch on Rumble, we get nothing. But we're on Rumble because there's got to be, like, you have to forward the line. You know what I mean? So we got to do it.
I wish they just innovated more on Rumble, brought something a little bit different.
What could they do? What's an idea?
TikTok did something completely different than YouTube.
Just a short content.
If I had the
Well,
idea,
yeah,
then
but-
I'd be the tech guy. But like, no, TikTok has a completely different
Rumble,
video
contact
platform.
a lot, and he will sell you whatever idea he's clearly
then,
not telling us.
You know, it's a carbon copy of YouTube, and it's like,
All right, here's what I'm going to do.
Shitty
So
ones.
I'm going to throw $100 on top as well, and we'll send $200 to Tyler for his dialysis, $100 from that great super chatter, and then we will send over this this. I'm trying to type in all this information real quick as we're. There we go. Looks good. Looks good. That does not look good. And let's help this guy out.
I was thinking, like, there are different platforms that seem to be leading the pack, but with TikTok, they're kind of doing what Vine did beforehand, right? Sort of short
yeah,
content.
I think
Their
it's the
algorithm seems
algorithm,
proprietary.
and it's the endless swipe. It's like you're never
never
ending.
Yeah.
Instagram is going to get that. X is going to get that.
Yeah.
But we're going to go to the members only show now. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. As I love this. I would put a poll in the chat that said, would you kindly smash the like button? And I've replaced it now with 1 like equals 1 let's go Brandon. And we're getting way more likes. So 1 like equals 1 let's go Brandon. And then we'll be over at timcast.com with the members only call-in show to hear from you guys. So become a member at timcast.com if you want to watch that. Again, go to timcast.com, click join us to become a member. I know some people become members on the YouTube channel. That's something totally different. Become a member at timcast.com. You can follow the show at Timcast on X, Instagram, and Timcast IRL on Instagram as well. And also on Rumble, rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Riley, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah. Look, if you're in West Virginia, tomorrow's the election. Would love to have your vote. You can find out more about me on moreforwv.com or Riley Moore WV on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's always great being on here with everybody. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll have to film some skating.
Oh,
As soon as you're able. Yeah.
Absolutely, Mr. Moore. Thanks for stopping by for a chat. My name's Alad Eliyahu. You guys could find me on Instagram, Barely Informed with Alad. Then we also do Timcast News on Twitter. Serge, what flavor Cast Brew coffee were you sipping over here?
Appalachian Nights.
Appalachian Nights.
Yeah.
It's all anybody drinks. And I'm glad it's a hit, but we have other coffee.
I actually pronounce
good,
it
it's good.
Appalachian Nights.
It is Appalachian.
Because he's actually from here, guys. This is him showing us we're all transplant, except for a lot who won't make New York.
I'm a transplant, but I Googled how to say it just because,
Yeah. I regularly forget how to say it, but one day it'll be native to me. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Like Alad said, you can follow all of our work at Timcast News. You see his great videos on the ground, so it's really important you check out that stuff out. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at hannahclaireb. Okay, bye, Serge.
Bye, Hannah Claire. Riley, thanks for coming in a lot as well. Romans, vote for Riley tomorrow if you're in West Virginia. Thank you very much.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.